Hey, how you doing? This is John, and welcome to John's Long Box. I'm doing my second live video for the day. This is my monthly visitor. What is that? That's what I tongue-in-cheek call my my new comics. I order from Discount Comic Book Service. Uh, Sorry, local comic book stores, but it's like 35 to 50% off new comics. I get nothing from them. I just get good comics. So I click like 3 months in advance, pay 3 months in advance, and then sometime during the month I get a box of comics. And I jokingly refer to as my monthly visitor. So I was gonna save this for a day where I had an open slot, nothing scheduled, but I just cleaned out my comic book room and I'm real eager to get everything organized. And I didn't want this box of comics over here on the floor so I want, all my, like when I do the back issue bonanza and my monthly visit, I scan them into my database and then organize them, check, see if I could read them, meaning do I have all the issues and everything like that. And I'm just eager to get that done. So I'm making this video. So again, uh, it's open invite because why not? I like to talk about comic books. So what better way to talk about comic books than with other people coming in and talking about comic books with me? We got Praetor saying, "What's up?" Oh, and I'm wearing my Patriarch shirt. I put it in another order. I sold out of my initial order. Any day now, I should be getting another one. The only difference is instead of gray, it's going to be white over here. It looked white when I ordered it. So the new ones are going to be white, comic book accurate. So there we go. And my comic, Heroic Tales, is still available on Fund My Comic. I'm going to be launching the campaign for issue 2 sooner rather than later. I'm being evasive about the date on purpose because when you give hard dates, people hold you to if there's a problem. The Mary Sue story is going to be sent out to be lettered. Renzo is tackling the Patriarch story, so the comic is 40% done already, and I didn't even launch. So there's that. When I do launch, we're gonna have I think 16 cards. I had 7 cards for the first issue, so every $1,000 that we do, I will unlock another card, and everybody who orders will get a card. Whatever doesn't get unlocked, it'll be $2 a card to complete the set. As soon as we launch the campaign, I'm going to close this site right over here, Heroic Tales #1. And if that means the only way to, if you don't have any of my cards, the only way to get cards going forward, it will be to buy a whole set. I just got to do that to recoup losses. You know what I mean? It's nothing personal. So anyway, if anybody wants to pop in and talk comics with me, there's the link. But let's begin talking about new comics. So this is Geiger #9 from Ghost Machine and Image Comics. This is Geoff Johns. Really digging this. Oh, Ernest says he's looking forward to issue 2. Cool. I can't wait. It's more of a traditional comic book story. Mary Sue is a an origin story, and the Patriarch story is a superhero story. But it's not going to be him by himself in his thoughts like the first issue was. The first issue, I just wanted to introduce you to the character. Now you'll see more of the world and things like that, and other superheroes and other villains. Okay, so here is Geiger. I'm digging this. I'm really digging this. I guess I'll just put them right here. This is Redcoat, another Ghost Machine Image comic production. Geoff Johns, Brian Hitch. I think I only read 2 issues of this so far because I think I'm missing number 3. So I got to catch up. I don't know about you, but I really dig this checkerboard. This checkerboard up here. Okay. Wrong Earth. You've been hearing me singing the praises of this comic. Tom Peyer writing, Jamal Igle, who could be an extreme SJW, but he is a good comic book artist. I just love this. This is a Dragonfly So Dragonfly Man and Dragonfly, think of it as like the Silver Age Batman meets the Frank Miller Batman, but they switch Earths. You know, they go through like the Looking Glass and they're on the wrong planets. It's and hijinks ensue. It's a comic book, superhero comic book lover's dream comic. It explores all the tropes. It's really good. It's really clever, really well drawn. Magic Order. Oh, this is disturbing face right over here. This is Mark Millar and Matteo Buffagni. I'm sure I said that name wrong. This is the Magic Order 5, issue number 3, Dark Horse Comics. And embarrassingly, it is to admit, I haven't read any Magic Order. So I'm, what are they, 4 issues? So I'm what 25 issues is, and I haven't read any of them yet. But that's the way I do. I'll sit down and read them all. I want to get caught up with all my Mark Millar comics. Hack and Slash and Body Bags. That face is really disturbing. Yeah, I know. Jeez. You know, and it's got boobs. It is disturbing. It is disturbing. Hack and Slash and Body Bags. I got the Body Bags. What's it, like 3 or 4 issues? Came out in the 90s, and then he died, the creator. I liked the art, but overall I didn't think it was that great. It was, it wasn't bad. It was just, but unfortunately when somebody dies young, we it was the best thing if only he lived, If Jim Morrison had lived, I think the Doors would have been forgotten, He would just be like doing a residency at Vegas, like with a meatball palm in his hand. Light my fire. So he died. It was the best thing that happened to his career. But anyway, Hack and Slash, I do like the idea of a girl whose mother was a slasher. She survived the slasher. So now she's going out and she's fighting slashers like a horror movie, like Jason and Freddy and all those guys, Super Babes number 19. So this is a spin-off of FemForce. So FemForce is doing what it does. FemForce is 220 issues of just big booby superhero girls. And that's AC Comics bread and butter. So why not do a spin-off on it? The only thing I didn't realize, it was $7. Holy mackerel. Oh, but art is pretty good. What do we got? Logic Fridays evening. Great time of the draw stream. Thanks for telling me about it. Salute. Oh yeah, that's you're talking about Don's studio. Yeah, he does it every week. Don's a good guy. Marcus is usually always there. Jim Lee is usually there, and then it's like a rotating cast of other people. They draw. I show up even though I can't draw, just to talk nonsense, talk trash. But I was cleaning my comic book room and listening. So this is Jeff Lemire, Minor Arcana. I got this because Jeff Lemire does Black Hammer, which I really, really love. Really, really love. Who's messaging me? People always message me when I go live. So I have no idea what this is. This is issue number 4. So of course I can't read it until I get 1, 2, and 3. Because I'm a crazy person. Johnny Quest. I love Johnny Quest. I watched it as a kid. Me and my brother used to watch Johnny Quest. I don't have issue 1 to 4. I just got this on a whim. I do like Joe Casey, so I'm sure this will be good. And I'm obsessed with the Venture Brothers. Oh my God, I love the Venture Brothers. I wish there was a Venture Brothers comic that continued the show. So I'll be reading this. Tomorrow Girl versus Punchline. No tomorrows. I think this is just a variant cover of the Kickstarter book that I already got, but I love this cover. And I love Punchline. And this is Bill Williams, who's my inker, not my inker, my letterer. So gotta support my buddies, gotta support my buddies. Sergio Aragonés Gru, Minstrel Melodies. Man, I am like 10 years behind on Gru. I got a big old stack of Gru that I got to catch up on. And I got to read them in order. So this is going to go on the bottom of the Gru stack, but I got to read Gru. For all I know, it's gotten bad, but I don't know. How could it get bad? Gargoyles Winter Special. I have a big stack of gargoyles accumulating. Because I missed an issue, and I got so much to read that buying like missing issues isn't that big of a priority. I remember not liking it, that it was getting a little woke, even though I hate that word. So it's getting the benefit of the doubt. I can't not get it until I realize that it's bad. So I should catch up on it. I was talking about Black Hammer. This is Black Hammer Spiral City. I just love this comic. I just really, really love, and everybody I recommended it to are like, yep, this is a good comic. Sweetie Candy Vigilante, number 6. I got these because Josh Howard was doing the covers, and she's like a vigilante who kills people using candy. It's a bizarre. I thought she was like a supernatural vampire and stuff. I think I read the first 3 issues, so I got a stack of these that I got to catch up on reading. I think I missed an issue. You see, she's got fangs and everything like that, and she's almost had like they kind of hint that she has supernatural power. It's okay. Now that Josh Howard's not doing the covers anymore, I gotta read it and see, like, do I want to continue this? Space Usagi by Stan Sakai. This is in the future of Usagi Yojimbo. I love Usagi Yojimbo. I like Space Usagi. So there's that. I hated the cartoon. Oh my god, there was this Usagi Yojimbo cartoon that was like in name only. Why do they do that? Why do they? I know why they do it. It's like get people to watch it, but it was not. It was not Usagi Yojimbo. I was like, I watched one episode and I was like infuriated. And now I got only 2 more things left, so this will be short if nobody wants to comment. Penthouse Comics number 6. I talk about this all the time. It is just there's only one story that I really like, the Miss October story. It's about a detective in like the 30s, 40s LA trying to solve a murder, but it's just, the rest of it is just identity politics. A black guy who passes for white going for revenge. A black guy who passes for white going for revenge. A black girl who puts on white makeup, and then when people find out she's black, she has to kill people. It's like, dude, get an editor. And then, like, it's funny to say, but like, it's not even that dirty. There's not even that much nudity. And then they have like a photo session at the end with like horribly tattooed girls. Sorry, but tattooed women just look like a building in the ghetto covered with graffiti. It's just trashy and dirty. Freddy the Fix one shot. I got this because of Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis, fanboy. So I get anything Garth Ennis. But this art looks really good. Andy Troy. I know nothing about it, but it looks like there's a vampire and a werewolf, and then like an arsonist or something. Maybe a magician, because it looks like smoke, which is really weird because Garth Ennis is usually pretty grounded in reality. So there you go. Oh, what's this? I just noticed Iggy Pop quote. I'm not ashamed to dress like a woman because I don't think it's shameful to be a woman. Okay, thanks, Iggy. All right. So I'm gonna leave this because I really like that cover. So there, that's my new comics for the month. I got nothing else to say, so I'll only stay live until the comments dry up or nobody has anything. Anybody want to? First off, I'll pop in the invite if anybody wants to pop in and talk to me. Come on in. Logic Finest, why don't you finally come in? Come on in. You know what? I'm going to give a spoiler. I got to do this. Okay. I'm going to give you guys a spoiler. How's that? Ooh. Oh. Goes underdog. Why am I giving a spoiler? Because I'm crazy. I don't. Okay. StreamYard updated, and I'm not used to the new buttons. But you see that? Oh. This is the inks for issue 2, the Renzo cover for Heroic Tales. So that's him battling the Subterranean. The name of the story is Subterranean Homesick Blues. That's the Patriarch versus the Subterranean. And you could kind of guess who I'm homaging there, right? So there you go. There's your spoiler. Anything? Got nothing else to say, guys. Wednesday, 8:30, comic book team up with RJ over on the Fourth Age. Thursday, Vaughn Coleman at 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Then I'm at Godfoe's channel between 8 and 9. Friday, it's Jeff Nelson, who has his own comic. And then 8:30, it's Clobberg time. Clayface, Batman villain versus Sandman, the Spider-Man villain. Oh, Logic Finest says the art looks great. Yeah. What do you guys think about this? Renzo sends me a bunch of sketches. Like he sent me 4 sketches of the cover, and then I picked one, and then he inked it. And I was like, these sketches are so nice, though. I'm picking 4. There's 4 gems, and I'm picking the shiniest gem. So I said, I made a folder, and Renzo puts all of his sketches in a folder. And I'm thinking at some point in the future, we'll just make an art of Heroic Tales, and I'll have like all the unused sketches, maybe black and white pencils and things like that of art, my art, which I think is funny. My sketches that I sent to Renzo of the characters. Sometimes I'll draw a sketch of like, this is how I want this panel to look. Some maybe my words aren't being justice. And we'll put those in. We'll talk about the characters, the creation of the character, outside of the comic book and things like that. Does that sound interesting? I see other people making the art of, Isom came out, and then the second book was the art of Isom. It's like, I just saw Isom, what's the art, but whatever, Cyberfrog has a different art variant book every 3 months. Why not? So I'm gonna wait till I get like 4 or 5 issues, and then we do it. I'd buy it. Oh, Ernest will buy it. There I go. I got one. Well, 2. I'll buy one. Another funny thing is I sent Daniel, who lives in Brazil, the colorist, 3 copies. I sent him copies of the comic and a T-shirt. I sent him the last of this batch of T-shirts. So Renzo, Renzo, Oscar, your T-shirts are coming as soon as the next batch shows up. I sent him 3 copies. He's going to sign 3 copies on the cover, mail them to Renzo. Renzo will sign 3 copies on the cover, mail them to Oscar. Oscar will sign 3 copies on the cover, mail it to, I guess, Bill Williams, because he lives in Texas. That's closest to Mexico. He'll sign it, mail it to Brian Bao, because he did ads. He'll sign it, send it to Fabrizio, because he did ads. Mail it to Ron Mosicki, and I'll mail it to Matt Bauer, because he did ads, and then mail it back to me, and then I'll sign it, and then I'll have 3 copies with everybody's signature on the covers. One's for me, because I'm paying all the shipping, and then 2 to auction off. What do you think about that? It won't be cheap, because it was $30 just to send it to Brazil. So there you go. Harrenberg just got home and jumped on. Glad to hear you be doing a Jungle Girl character soon. Yeah, it should have all the stamps on. Oh, that would be funny. That would be funny. Fabrizio, yeah, it'll come on in. Fabrizio, come on in. Harrenberg, come on in. Logic, come on in. We'll talk about comics, because I'm done. I just was showing off my new comics, and I just wanted to do this so I could scan these, put them in order, and organize them. You know what I mean? And I can't do that until I make the video. So there you go. So I'm kind of done with what I have to say. Anybody? Oh, Heroenberg, I was just about to address what he said. Glad to hear you'll be doing a Jungle Girl character. So, I did Rima the Jungle Girl this morning for Sunday Comics. Just a really good piece of DC history that it kind of just like disappeared. You know, I really like this comic. I really do. And it started off, I got it about 7 years ago, and it started off a kick of jungle characters. And I made up an NPC, a non-player character in my role-playing game called Gina the Jungle Queen. So in Heroic Tales, at some point, I'm going to introduce the superhero team of the 40s. You know, there's always a World War II team. And Gina the Jungle Queen is in that team. So she's a normal human. She doesn't have any powers. She's like a Betty Page looking girl in like a leopard suit and everything like that. And my concept of her is she's not a superhero. She's just an opportunist. She got an agent. You know, she has a rich agent husband who basically paid the bills for this team and put her on the team. So she doesn't fight crime. She doesn't do anything. She just poses as Gina the Jungle Queen, but she parlays her fame into conservationism, you know, and does a lot of good, you know, charity works and bringing attention to endangered species, like, you know, like real legit environmentalism, not this nonsense, crazy person stuff that we see today. And she makes a fortune, and spoiler alert, she buys tracts of jungle property and she finds something there. I can't tell you what it is because that's a big part of the Heroic Tales world. And her biggest contribution to the superhero world will be her children rather than her herself. She's an opportunist. She's like a professional wrestler. You know what I mean? She's just not really a superhero. She's not really a crime fighter, just glomming on to the fame of this super team. So there you go. That'll be the story of Gina the Jungle Queen. Today's Sunday, yeah, as far as I know, right? Unless we have a matter transformer. Hey, John, sick as hell today. If it wasn't for that, I'd jump on. Glad you're feeling better at least. Me and Mom got to pay. Oh man, everybody's sick. I was sick for like 2 weeks, you know, and I was just, you know, I was so sick. The only thing that would make me feel better would be Heroenberg would make me feel better. So I'm going to take down this. We don't need that anymore. And we can do that. How you doing?
Oh, I'm making you feel better. Okay. That sounds good.
The only thing makes me feel better is more cowbell.
Oh yeah.
So I was just saying that I was like sick for 2 weeks, and then I got my wife sick, and now, you know, so
wait, this was COVID stuff?
Not COVID. I mean, I don't get tested anywhere. What's the purpose of getting tested? You know what I mean? Like I had COVID once. I just sat at home and waited till it went away, you know?
Yeah.
So I was sick. Last Saturday. Yeah. I got called in for overtime on a Saturday, and that's 8 hours time and a half. That's a lot of money. You know what I mean? That's a lot of money. So I didn't want to turn it down. But when I woke up in the morning, I was legit sick. And I'm like, I can't call in. They're never going to ask me again. There's 65 guys on the job, and they only need like 3 guys every given Saturday. So I was in the rotation. They're going to take me out of the rotation. So I went, and oh my God, I had 102 fever. I threw up at work, which I never do. So I just came home, and then I went to work on Monday, and then Tuesday I just stayed home. I was sick, but now I'm better. Why are we talking about this? Because
I'm glad you're feeling better. I went to work sick quite a few times during the COVID period, and just kind of powered through it. It's tough. Yeah.
Yeah. I got COVID like the first time I heard the word COVID, you know, like stay home for 2 weeks. You remember when that happened? So I stayed home for, you know, everybody stayed home for 2 weeks. And then I went back to work, and like within like 4 days I had COVID. And so I stayed home for another 2 weeks, but I got paid, and I painted the basement and everything like that. COVID wasn't that bad.
Yeah,
So,
I actually didn't get COVID until August 2021, so avoided it for a super, super long time.
oh, I got it like immediately.
Yeah.
I got to admit, I was scared because of all the news talking about it. I was like, "Is this it, honey?" Like, you know, you know, the doctors were calling. Like, I heard you had COVID. Yeah, who were your friends? I was like, "This is creepy." So I was like, "Nobody. I live by myself." I didn't know if they were going to come and grab me and grab my wife. And grab my friends, coworker. You know what I mean? I didn't know what was going on,
Yeah, you have to not tell anybody.
so I didn't say anything. And my wife worked at home, so she got sick too, but she just kept on working from home. So by the time they had the vax, I was like, I already had it. And I was painting my basement. My wife didn't miss any work because she worked at home. So I'm not getting this shot that's untested. And I already had the disease. It wasn't that bad. Now I understand other people had it and they were incapacitated. So to each their own.
Yeah, I have one friend who claims she has long COVID, whatever that means. I don't
Long
know.
COVID is an injury from the vaccination itself.
Right.
Yeah.
So, in other words, it has nothing to do with the disease as much as it has to do with the ostensible cure.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my
So, oh, you're muted.
Oh, I said one of my friends has long COVID. He died, so he's going to have long COVID for eternity.
Yeah, that's
The mitochondria, And then I got two friends who were vaccinated who they just went, you know what? I don't feel good. I'm going to go for a doctor's appointment. I'm going to go for a doctor's appointment. Both of them went to the doctor, and the doctor was just like, "Put your affairs in order. You have cancer. You got like weeks left to live." They from the super advanced turbo cancer, both of them, and they.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What are the odds?
Never tell me.
Never tell me the odds. So anyway, I want to get off this topic. It's too morose. So I found Heroinberg #4. I organized all my comics yesterday.
Okay.
I still can't find Sergeant Fury and the Howling Commandos #1. It's $1,000 comic book, and
I was going to say, isn't that worth a lot of money?
Yeah, it's the first appearance of Nick Fury. Came out like
did you have it graded or anything? You didn't? No,
I didn't have it. I don't get any comics graded.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's fine. I don't either.
I don't like to grade comics. I like to open up comics and read them. When you grade comics, you are not a comic book person. You are a speculator.
Yeah, because you're sealing them in. It's right. Like putting a fly in amber, and then
right. It's a comic book is supposed to be read. Now, call me a hypocrite because when I retire and it's time to sell the comics, maybe I'll grade them and sell them to make the money. You know what I mean? So I understand it. I understand both sides of the argument. But as of right
now, at that point, you no longer intend to read them anyway. So
I know, but then maybe the fates will I'll drop dead first before I have to make that decision, and I can go to my grave as a non-hypocrite.
Let's hope not. But I'm glad you found the book. I have an interesting story that happened today.
Okay.
We were going to do I was going to do a shoot, and this is how the shoot was going to go. I had written a closing scene for the season 3 of our videos, which is going to take 2 more years. So in other words, I wrote a script that's not going to be used for 2 more years. And this script involved the final defeat of the head of the supervillains, right?
Yeah.
Or the supervillainesses in this case. And I mean, it involved her being defeated by a machine, a very complex machine that some of the heroines built, the ones that had the high-tech powers. They teleported her into this machine and drained all her powers using intense gravity waves. That was going to be my... I don't know what you call it. What do you call it when you kind of have a science that, approaches magic, right? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Magic science. That's what I call it. Yeah.
Magical science. Right. But it's gravity, So anyway, we were going to do this, and it was going to involve a holiday installation that was built downtown, and it was very colorful. And it was huge, cost thousands and tens of thousands of dollars for the cultural people downtown to build this. And I had every indication that this installation was going to be up until January 15th, because on the signs all around the installation, which was in a public park downtown, That's what it said, open to the public until January 15th. So last Sunday, it was snowing pretty heavily, and I went down there to make sure the installation was still there. It was there on January 5th, and then I made plans with the actress, the head of the supervillains, to go down and film today on January 12th, figuring, okay, that's 3 days before they take it down. And I did the whole thing of making sure we had a restaurant across the street to warm up in and a place for her to change in the bathroom. And I was going to, run a small tab at the restaurant, to thank them for giving us a space. And so I went in and opened the tab and ordered 2 glasses of wine, just to have something to drink before we got started to film. And then I was like, okay, I said to my actress, I'm going to go outside and, scout the location again. And then we're going to go out in a few minutes. You can change and then you can go out and we'll tape this. It should take 10 to 15 minutes. It was just 7 shots total, right? The end of this supervillain's story arc. So I go out there and lo and behold, this entire installation was removed since last week. They removed it 3 days early at least. And it was a perfect day to do it. So we had really good climate outside, no snow. It was, kind of in the 30s temperature wise. And so I had to go back in. I told the actress, we're not going to be able to do this. Let's just do it later in the year when we find another suitable installation we can use to film it at, because apparently it's gone. So we finished our wines and then went home, and we only wasted an hour and a half of our lives. So it was no big deal. But yeah. I'd expected this gigantic installation, which cost thousands of dollars to erect, to still be there. And they removed it 3 days early. And we were, as you say, thwarted.
Oop Horror has a good point. Better to slab a comic than lose it in flood. Better to grade it than lose profit. Paris always talk, but we all know it. If a 9.8 in a raw comic will list the same price, I would buy the raw comic. I bought an 8.5 Avengers #4 and broke it open just because I wanted to read it.
That is dedication to reading for sure.
So I mean, I have a list on my comic shop of comics that I want. One of them, I want Marvel Boy, the original 50s Marvel Boy comics, and they have them all slabbed. And I'm just waiting for a raw one. They have a 3.5 CGC Namora #1 that I want, but I'm waiting for a raw one. I don't like slabbed comics.
Namora had her own comic.
Yeah, not too many issues.
Oh, okay. Wow. All right.
I will not buy a slabbed comic. I bought that Avengers comic because I didn't realize it was slabbed. And I have the 4-issue Grendel series by Matt Wagner.
From the 80s?
Yeah, from the 80s.
The original one. Yeah, that's really good.
I was missing #3, and I finally bought #3, and it came slabbed, and I was like, crack. It was before I had a channel. Now, if I had if I have a slab comic, I'll crack it open live. They're not comics. They're just plastic collector's items. You know what I mean?
Trinkets, yeah.
Yeah. My cousin is like 2 years ago, he's like, oh yeah, I got into comic books, and he's telling me what I should do. You know what you should do? I'm like, oh really? What should I do? What should I do there, Joe? You just got into comic books, and you can tell me. But he's like, yeah, I just picked up a Spectacular Spider-Man 27. And I was like, oh cool. Well, I love that issue. And and he's like, yeah, it's a key issue. And I'm like, yeah, I remember, and I'm like, I remember I went to Howie's drugstore and I picked that comic up. And I was so excited when I got it. I was like, I was describing the cover, and he's just like, yeah, it's a key issue. So after like 5 minutes, I realized he doesn't know anything about this comic other than it's a key issue. So I said, why is Spectacular Spider-Man 27 a key issue? And he's like, because it's a key issue. I said, I know, you said that 4 times. Why is it a key issue?
First appearance of somebody? What?
It's the first Frank Miller Marvel comic work. And he also
ever. Wow.
Yeah, and he did, I think he did Valiant, I think, but it's his first Marvel work. And it also has Spider-Man guest starring Daredevil. So I was like, this is history. If you're asking me, this is American history. This is, Frank Miller doing his first Daredevil, doing his not only his first Daredevil but his first Marvel. It's a piece of history. He's like,
so Frank Miller did Marvel after he did both DC and Valiant, yeah.
I don't know if he did DC at that point, but I know this is his first Marvel. But I could be wrong. But the point being is, he just knows it's a key issue. I'm like, you don't collect comics. I was like, you might as well be collecting gems or box cars. I said, you're just collecting something, And he, you're an elitist. I'm like, no, I'm a guy who likes comics. I like comics, I'd crack the 9.8 before buying the raw. I understand what you're saying, because you I got like something in my nose. I understand what you're saying. I want my comics to be in good condition. And if you follow my channel long, you could see that I've like taken a comic from my childhood, showed it off, talked about it, and then went and bought another copy because it was just so beat up. I do want my comics to be in good condition. And, a 9.8, you get it from CGC, you're going to get a good condition comic. So I understand what you're saying. But, like, it's the difference between like hundreds of dollars. Like, I'll look at the picture, like I'll go to eBay and like see the pictures, as long as it's fine or better, I'm happy. I especially love going to a comic convention where you can actually see the comic in your hand. But I understand what you're saying, OP Horror. You get the pedigree behind it. You get the guarantee that it's in the shape that it says. Because a few times I've glanced at it on eBay and then bought it, and I was like, oh man, I didn't notice this huge flaw, which I just did recently with Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man 24. It's got like it looks like somebody bit the corner out of the comic, and I actually bought another copy. So yeah, I could see both sides. Me personally, it's, I want to look at the letters page. I want to look at the ads. You know what I mean? I want to look at all of that stuff.
Yeah, you want to be. I have the same. I had the same issue a couple of times. Do you ever buy things off Discogs?
No, I never heard of it.
Discogs is the record equivalent. Sometimes.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you'll have, and it's kind of analogous, right? You'll have a record that is rated, virtually mint as far as the record goes, but then the record shows up in the mail from Germany, and the cover's beat to all hell. Like, it plays fine, right? But the cover's shredded all along the sides or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got a turntable set up over there, and I've been buying vinyl again, but I've also have, like, if you line up all my vinyl, it's probably like 18 feet of vinyl. I was that weirdo that all my brothers and sisters, when they moved to CDs, stuff like that, I took all their vinyl. So
yeah, why not?
I got vinyl like by bands that I would never listen to. I don't like the band U2. I think I got all their records because I just inherited from everybody else. So Logic Prime, I'd buy a raw comic 10 out of 10. Yeah, the 2 times I bought a slabbed comic, I bought it because I didn't realize I was buying a slabbed comic. It was my own fault for not reading the description. I've dropped too many comics. Slabs are for I got a barbaric limited to 10 slab and read the second prints. Okay, I'm not. Do what you got to do. Do what you want to do. Yeah. You understand? That's cool.
Barbaric's a pretty good book. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I understand why you're doing it. And believe me, I live in fear of my house burning down. I mean, if my house burns down, the slabs are going anyway, But yeah, I totally understand. But, it's funny because one of my very first Sunday comics, I did my copy of Fantastic Four 1, and the people in the comments were like, is that a real copy? What the hell are you showing it for? What the hell are you touching it for? I'm like, because comics are for reading. But that Fantastic Four comic, I won't let you handle it. You know what I mean? I'm not, but I'll take it out and look at it. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah.
Hey, speaking of Fantastic Four, I don't know if you have a opinion on this. I watched yesterday Sasha from Casually Comics talking about Malice and the Malice stories from the 80s and 90s with Sue Storm.
Yeah, there's 2 of them. Yeah.
Right. There was 2. And I don't know if you saw, but they brought back Malice as a skin in that Marvel Rivals video game. So not only does Sue Storm look great, but there's also a Malice version of her in that same game. And it was cool to see the story kind of related, from the previous Malice appearances in the comics. I wonder if that means they're going to, put her back into the comics at some point in the near future if she's now featured in the game.
I don't know, but John Byrne specifically made her because John Byrne, his favorite member of the Fantastic Four was the Invisible Woman. He changed her name from the Invisible Girl to the Invisible Woman, and he wanted to show off how powerful she was. So he was just like, what if I put her in a full body costume and give her a reason to fight the other Fantastic Four,
Right.
He didn't draw
part of her transition into the Invisible Woman name to be Malice, kind of in the middle between the two personas. Right. But I kind of wondered, maybe what John Byrne said about this. Why did he just change it to Invisible Girl to Invisible Woman? Why didn't he just give her a completely, different name like Invisa, or, just something that didn't even reference the fact that she changed from girl to woman? Like, why was it important to?
I guess just first, Invisible Woman's a cool name. We're used to it at that point. It's been around for 40 years.
We're used to it now, sure.
Yeah, but we have Spider Woman. Nobody calls her Spydra or anything like that.
No, of course. But nowadays, if you say Invisible Woman, it kind of gives the idea, this is a woman that you can't see too well. She's not really being quote unquote seen. You get what I mean?
Yeah. Well, Mr. Fantastic doesn't describe his ability to stretch either,
Right. No, he doesn't. Of course not. Yeah.
Although I just read something the other day that I got to check up off if this is true or not. But I do know from Lovecraft stories that the word fantastic had a different connotation back then. Fantastic meant strange, weird, almost like
a phantasm.
Yeah, it was mysterious. It had almost like a bizarre connotation.
It still has that meaning. It still has that meaning in Spanish.
Right, but it doesn't have the connotation. And so when Reed Richards took the name Mr. Fantastic, it was basically Doctor Strange. It was weird. They were
Strange. Yeah.
Yeah. The only one with a superhero name was the Human Torch. And I'm used to it now because it's been around for 60 years. But I hate the name the Human Torch. But I just accept it now. Because he's not a torch. He does other things. He's like a human jet. He has propulsion and thrust and everything. But anyway, so Mr. Fantastic, they say that his Mr. Fantastic, that character helped change the connotation of that word. So nowadays we think, that's fantastic. Look at this birthday cake. It's fantastic, meaning it's great. But in 1930, it
meant strange or weird. Yeah.
Yeah. If I told this cake is fantastic, it's like, what's wrong with it?
Well, that's how words evolve. I mean, the word weird meant something different too.
Right. Or
originally.
Queer. Queer meant, or the flip that queer meant like
queer as well. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Or the Jetsons or the Fantastic Four will have a gay old time. It meant happy, friendly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Words change.
Yeah, they do.
Fantastic as in Cosmic Horror. Absolutely. K.O. Joe. And what does he say here? Sasha, Person Purple stage event. Sometimes I don't know what's going on in the world. I always thought it was because of the 60s girl was acceptable for a woman. Yes. But it wasn't politically correct to the 80s. So yes, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
Back then we said girl, like you'd introduce your wife. This is my girl. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It wasn't bad.
It became a diminutive term as time went on.
Right. And then in the 80s, it was just like, the word changed, the world changed. And here we're talking about a woman who single-handedly beat the Hulk. She's a mother.
But I think now if they were to change Invisible Woman's name again, they would kind of have an excuse. Well, that still doesn't sound very powerful. Why don't we call her something like Force Field, or
but that's just it. What name would, she's still the Invisible Girl. Even her force fields are invisible. Invisibility is the main focus of her power.
Oh, wait, but no, I don't think that was what made her the most powerful. What made her the most powerful Fantastic Four member was the power of her force field.
Yeah, the force fields is by far
Right.
super powerful. Like
So in other words, the force field power is a lot more strenuous and a lot more emphatic than the invisible power.
right.
So it would make sense to drop Invisible Woman and just call her Force Field or something like that. Force Woman. I don't know.
Yeah, force. What's a good name? Yeah, Jean Grey's original name was Marvel Girl. Yeah, yeah. Well, she was also a 16-year-old girl at the time.
And Marvel Girl didn't really describe. You like names that describe powers. Marvel Girl is one of the least descriptive names.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Like it certainly doesn't describe telekinesis or telepathy.
Yeah, Doctor Strange is good, but there's a lot of like works around like Captain Marvel, for Marvel or Captain Marvel, Shazam. These names don't just like, but they still work. There's kind of these just like fantastic, like nondescript names. It was funny because Robert Kirkman wrote a character called he did a short stint writing for Marvel, and Spider-Man met a guy. What did he call himself? Like Captain Cosmic or something like that. Just like a ridiculous name.
Not Captain Universe.
No, not Captain Universe. I don't even know if Captain Cosmic was the name. Like maybe his name Captain Fantastic or Mr. Wonderful. Just put a name like that, like one of these just nondescript, cool, like super. But I'll stick with Captain Fantastic just for the just for the purpose of this story. But I that's not the name. I just can't remember. So Spider-Man and the superhero Captain Fantastic teamed up. And they started, and then Spider-Man goes, "What can you do?" After the fight, and the guy's like, "All right, you're Spider-Man. I'll tell you." And turns out he had a magic ring that was carved from a cosmic cube, and when he took the ring off, he was a Skrull. So he was a Skrull living on Earth, exiled on Earth. So he put the ring on. He goes, "While I wear the ring, whatever I can control." Down to the quark, anything that's in contact with this ring. So he could control every molecule in his body. So he could make himself super strong. He could make himself invisible. You know what I mean? So he could do all of these things. And if he grabs you and he's touching you, he could control your body. He's vastly powerful, but in a small little contained area. So Spider-Man's like, "Wow, that's really powerful. Why do you call yourself Fantastic Captain?" He goes, "Because I don't want anybody to know what I could do. What should I call myself? Ring Man?" He goes, "That's really bad." He goes, "You call yourself Spider-Man. You might as well tell all the bad guys exactly what you could do. And then they can just." I thought that was a funny little.
All right. I found the name of the character, the Kirkman character in Spider-Man. His name was Crusader.
Crusader. There you go. Okay. Yeah. It had nothing to do with his powers. Had nothing.
Extremely nondescript. I mean, unless he's killing Saracens in the Holy Land, he's pretty nondescript.
Like a knight or something like that.
Yeah.
But I thought that was funny. And then, believe it or not, Invincible. In the Invincible comic.
Yep.
There was I can't remember, but there was a black super scientist. I can't remember his name, Professor Angstrom or something like that. And he created like a dimensional portal. And,
yeah, he did. Yeah, that's right.
And he punched Invisible. Invisible goes flying through the portal. And then in the Spider-Man comic that Robert Kirkman was doing, Invincible popped out. So it was a little Invincible Spider-Man team up within Marvel Comics. And Spider-Man's like, "Who are you?" He's like, "I'm Invincible." He goes,
"Wait, that happened? What issue is that? I never heard of that before."
It was Robert Kirkman did a short stint in like a 10-issue Marvel team up.
How long ago?
I was still collecting, so I'm going to say 2005, 2006.
Invincible. Okay, so Invincible, the run of Invincible had already started at that point, right?
It wasn't like full on, going.
It wasn't big yet.
I think it was a way to get people interested in Invincible. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. I had no idea he placed Invincible in Marvel Comics.
Yeah.
Why would Marvel allow him to do that?
Because Robert Kirkman was a phenomenon with The Walking Dead at this point.
Oh, I guess. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
And Robert Kirkman allowed it because he owned it all. So they had a discussion. He goes, so they're talking about their names. He's like, yeah. He goes, in my world, we don't describe ourselves. Why give the bad guys the advantage of knowing exactly where? He goes, I'm invincible. He goes, what can you do? He goes, that's just it. He goes, I'm invincible, but they don't know I can fly. They could. He goes, what's your name? He goes, Spider-Man. He goes, really? Your name is Spider-Man? He goes, that's the worst superhero name I ever heard. He goes, that's just as bad as like, I don't know, like Batman. It was just funny, in the Invincible world, they don't have like what Rexplosion is a name, Omni-Man, but they don't have Batman, Spider-Man. I thought that was funny. And then the portal opened up and he went back in, and that was the end of Invincible. Yeah, so there was a little Spider-Man Invincible team up within Marvel Comics.
And I think what happened was at the end of season 2 of Invincible, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Kirkman repeated that near the end of Invincible season 2 by having Angstrom punch him through a portal, and he meets a fake Spider-Man named Agent Spider.
Oh, that's probably how he did it for the cartoon. They probably didn't have Marvels because I think
didn't. So in the cartoon near the end of season 2, he meets Agent Spider after being punched by Angstrom. Yes.
Yeah. So that's how they got around. I guess Marvel didn't give permission to put it in the cartoon.
No, I wouldn't imagine they would.
Yeah. It's okay. It's okay for Invincible to be in Marvel, but it's not okay for Spider-Man to be in Image.
Apparently not. I'm looking forward to Invincible season 3 though.
Agent Spider.
What?
That's his name is Agent Spider.
Yeah, Agent Spider. Yeah. It's funny.
It's funny because I have a spider. I have a comic that I'm supposed to be working on right now. Eddie is Doomed, and Eddie reads comics, and there's the Golden Age Captain Arachnid and the Silver Age Captain Arachnid. And he's like kind of like the Shadow meets Lobster Johnson kind of secret. The 40s one is like a secret agent hero, and then the 50s one is
does he have like a cape and a hat and stuff? I mean, like a cloak and a hat, and he looks all mysterious.
No, he has like a leather flight jacket, almost like the Rocketeer. I'll find it.
Okay.
Show you. But it's pretty cool. And then the 50s one, he's more like a Green Lantern. He comes from space, and he has a space gun.
He comes from a planet of spider people, I guess.
He's like part of like a space force, so like more like a Green Lantern. These are supposed to be like homages to DC.
Oh, so a large scale core of defenders, not something small like Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find
Captain Arachnid.
Yeah, I just thought that was like a good cheesy spider based name.
And definitely is.
And then Oscar, I just came up the name because I was like, the name of the comic book company within the comic is Top Comics. So I was just like the top 10, and I only had 9 characters. So I was like, I need one more. I was like, Captain Arachnid. And then Oscar was like, I love that name. And then he basically started designing it.
Because Top Cow Mix was taken. Top Cow Mix.
Oh, I'm scrolling. I can't freaking find this. This drives me nuts. But of course, whenever I want to look for something, I can never find it. Come on. Okay. All right. I found it. So I will. This is the Golden Age Captain Arachnid. Okay. So that he's like a spy smasher,
Mm-hmm.
And that gun is like a wire gun, like a not a web shooter, but like close to it. And then this is the Silver Age Captain Arachnid.
And they both have kind of the tattered spider web.
Yeah. I love Oscar's designs. These were supposed to be throwaway characters that I just named, and I have a backstory on a few of them. And then Oscar started drawing them and then talking about their backstory. And he basically doubled the size of this comic because now I have to make stories with these guys. They're so good. They were supposed to just be like on a cover flexing, because the story is about Eddie collecting his comics. Now there's a story within the story kind of thing. But this one is my favorite. I might as well show you this with the typo and everything. We fixed it, but this is the cover to Eddie is Doomed. Eddie is spelt wrong, so we fixed it with the Y. But that's two different artists. This is Tonic Mall drawing Eddie, and Oscar drawing all the superhero characters. But I want to show you my favorite of them all. I just told Oscar the name of one of the villains, and he just, yeah, okay. I just saw the corrected cover. Oh, come on. I'm scrolling.
So how do all of these comic book characters behind Eddie, how do they interact with Eddie? How does that work?
He reads about them. So it's think of it as Love and Rockets meets Crisis on Infinite Earths. Eddie is a 35-year-old. He's not a bad guy. He's just a lazy guy. Whatever, he's going through life the easiest way possible. He's been reading comic books since he was a kid. His father told him to get a job. So at like 16 years old, he got a job at a supermarket. He's now 35 years old. He's the manager of the supermarket. And he just reads comics at work. You know, he delegates everything to everybody. You know what I mean? You know, he walks to work and he lives in his father's basement. Well, before the comic started, Eddie's mother and sister died in a car accident, and Eddie's father retired. You know, he was a police officer, and he was just like, I don't want to work anymore. And now he's telling Eddie, I'm going to retire and move to Florida. You know, we live in Flushing, New York. It's expensive. We have a big house. We don't need a big house anymore. It's just you and I. So Eddie, you know, you're a manager of a supermarket. You're on your own. And Eddie's like, how can you do this to me? He's so selfish, you know? So he's just like, oh God. And he goes to the comic book store and he's like,
so he is I don't know if you know, is he a little bit of a man child? Like,
yeah. I already talked to Nandor Fox.
Nandor Fox Schaefer's book, Manchild. Yes.
Right. So he actually gave me permission to draw Manchild in the comic book store.
Oh, that's such a good idea. Yeah, team up.
Yeah. So so Eddie's going to the comic book store and he's just like, can you believe it? My father, how could he do this to me? And of course, the comic book guy's like, oh man, you got that sweet setup in the basement. You know, he's got everything in the basement, all his comic book. Eddie is all of us. So he goes to the comp, and it's set in 1986 because it has to be before cell phones and stuff like that, or the story doesn't make sense. And he's like, what's this? He's like, what do you mean, what's this? You haven't heard about this? This is called the Doomed Earth. You know, and he's like, the Doomed Earth. He's like, yeah, it's all of Top Comics, all the Silver Age and all the Golden Age characters. They all get together to fight the Doom Keeper, and Earths are going to get destroyed. And Top Comics is changing its whole continuity. It's starting over again from scratch. And Eddie's like, what? So like, there's no solace even in his comic book world, you know. So both worlds are ending. Poor Eddie. That's the
wow. That sounds. I mean, like a bummer, unless, of course, he can find a way to solve both of his problems.
Well, the comic is called Eddie is Doomed. So,
uh-oh.
And this character is Caesar. You know, I have a list of the bad guy names, and I told Oscar, I was like, yeah, one of the bad guys is going to be Caesar. He's going to be like my Namor. And Oscar goes, so he's like an aquatic Rasputin. And I was like, you got it. And he drew this. I love that. So have you been reading up on like this new conspiracy, the Tartarians?
Tartarians? No.
Yeah.
Do they come from inside the Earth, or is that a different bunch of
Tartarians were the civilization that they had, like Tesla was like a Tartarian, apparently. Like they had free energy and everything was great. They built all these wonders, like they went like everywhere in the Northern Hemisphere, like all of these old buildings. Like,
and this is before Atlantis or Hyboria or what?
And then World War I came, and you know, there was mud floods that buried some of their buildings and blah blah blah. I'm just repeating the conspiracy theory. I don't believe it.
Okay, yeah, I haven't heard this.
World War I came, and now the you know, Russia and Britain and stuff like that hid all the evidence of the existence of the Tartarians. You know, and because now we got to pay for gas, we blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? And so like they got hit by mud floods, and then we took advantage of their moment of weakness to wipe them out. So Caesar was pushed into the sea, and he's the last king of Tartaria, who now lives beneath the sea.
Oh, okay. He is kind of your Namor because he basically comes from your version of Atlantis. Okay. I can definitely see there being a conspiracy with energy. I mean, when was it that Dow Chemical conspired to, quash the benefits of hemp, for example?
Yeah. But go down a rabbit hole. Look up Tartaria.
Tartaria.
Because I have a group of guys that we play role playing games, and one of the guys, he just said, "Oh, my character's from Tartaria," and I was like, "Where's Tartaria?" And one of the other guys goes, "It's within Russia." He just didn't want to set Roy off. And then as we were playing, he kept talking about Tartaria. I was like, "What the hell is this?" This was only like a year ago. So then I started looking it up, and it's my favorite conspiracy theory right now. Like, there's a lot of good conspiracy, like birds aren't real and stuff like that. Doesn't mean I believe them, but I love a good conspiracy.
Oh, I found it. So it's an empire that was supposed to have existed in Central Asia because that's where the Tatars are from, right? They're Turkish. And actually, the Tatars are the third biggest ethnic minority in Russia. I don't know if you knew that.
Right.
But
yeah. So that's
there's
what
a lot of them. There's a lot of them still around.
Yeah, that's what makes it so compelling, is that there's truths mixed in with, like, is this real? Is this not real? Which makes
the Tatars never actually had an empire. There's plenty of other Turkish empires. There was the Khazars in the same place.
And then you could get maps from like 1915 with Tartaria actually on the maps. You know what I mean? So
so this is kind of a Mandela effect.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
it's a great rabbit hole. I stayed up to like 4 o'clock in the morning when I just reading all about Tartaria.
If it's from around that time period, then it's actually kind of a steampunk thing too, a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Late 19th century conspiracies.
And they had buildings
like Tesla, right?
And that's why Grand Central Station, like the architecture that like that old, like pre-Art Deco American architecture, like it looks like the old buildings in Europe and Russia and stuff, and saying that they had like a worldwide empire because they could travel through airships. Or it's just so much fun. I love that stuff. It's just like Jack Kirby would already have had 3 comics about Tartaria if he was still around.
It kind of sounds like a steampunk Jack Kirby, especially with the airships.
I like spoiling stuff. I'm going to show a page from issue 2 of Heroic Tales.
Okay.
Here we go. So this is a page from Heroic Tales. This is a
lot of characters in there.
Yeah, this is just like what they're studying is commonalities between all superpowered beings. So if you could see up on the second panel to the left, there's a girl with long. That's Mary Sue. This is a flashback. She's looking at they're studying the patriarch and all the other. What do all of these superheroes have in common? And I'm trying to make it bigger, but I can't. It doesn't get bigger. But in my world, when superheroes are really, really exerting themselves, their eyes glow with the golden light. You've seen it already in issue number 1, and they're like, that's the commonality. And you see this guy's pointing to this. This isn't colored corrected. I had it color corrected, but he's pointing to this graph, and he's pointing to a spectrum, and they figured out this frequency, and they're trying to copy this frequency.
They all operate on a specific spectral frequency.
Right. And the thing is, they don't know what this frequency is. They don't have the capacity to detect this type of energy. So they deduce that there's a whole nother spectrum of energy. They call it the counter spectrum. That's at 90 degrees to our spectrum. So, and it goes from like ultra dark to infra white.
So it's like anti-energy as opposed to antimatter.
Well, it's not anti-energy. It's just different energy. We have a spectrum like this. This spectrum is like this. So it's an XY axis instead of or whatever. It's a vertical axis instead of a horizontal. But it's at a and now where the two spectrums coincide and interact, if they interact at it'll cause superpowers. So what they're trying to do is how to scientifically create like math through scientific research, how to
create a mathematical formula that will create superpowers.
Exactly. Yes. Thank you. So, these are some of the superheroes in my world, and each one of these is going to get a card. So this is 9 cards. Mary Sue gets a card. The monsters get a card. So I think there's going to be like 16 trading cards.
So, yeah, we just made a set of trading cards. That's cool. It's always cool to do that. So as opposed to like the he's spoiling stuff. As opposed to like an anti-life equation, this is kind of the pro superhero equation.
Well, yeah, it's just, you look at all of the energy in Marvel and DC comics, nothing corresponds to the electromagnetic spectrum. Like what is cosmic energy?
Right.
The dark force. So like the Shroud in DC, he has the dark force, but well, that's ultra black. Infra white would be another type of white light. This cosmic energy is on that spectrum. There's a whole bunch of different energies that, like instead of like X-ray, gamma, blah, blah, radio. So now they figured out these different energies that have different properties that,
okay.
So like people who are into astrology, they're like, we're all connected. Well, now we find out. So they're building machines to detect the undetected. Like, how like you're in a house and all of a sudden you just know somebody's behind you. You know what I mean? Like, this counter spectrum, they'll be able to build machines that they can do telepathy and teleportation. It's all the magic science energy. But so I'm just going to go down and list all 9 of these superheroes. So this woman in the red and yellow, that's the go-getter. She's a super speedster. The next in the blue, that's the peacekeeper. He's a Superman level powered being who works for the UN.
Okay.
That's all I'm going to say about him. You decide whether he's a good guy or a bad guy. That's next is Marshall Strong. That's my friend Mike's ultimate superhero character. So that's Captain America meets Nick Fury, So he's got like that perfect body of Captain America.
Is he a little bit like Tom Strong too?
No, because he's not a scientist.
Oh, okay.
He's more like a military strategist, and he's also a brilliant psychologist. He's one of the people that helped develop the whole There's a whole project behind superhero stuff. Then there's
a Project Manhattan for superheroes. Then okay,
kind of, yeah. He he made the profiles for volunteers to get this experimental treatment to become superheroes, and he realized that he fit the profile, so he underwent and became like the ultimate patriotic superhero. There's the Shield Maiden, so she's like my Wonder Woman.
Yeah, Valkyrie type.
Yeah, and then when you go underneath the Go-Getter, there's Magnum. So he's like the 7-foot tall, super strong magnetic guy. So picture like the Hulk and Magneto were mixed together. That's my friend Paul's character, and he is the ultimate munchkin, meaning he likes to manipulate all the numbers to make the most powerful superhero. So Magnum is like, a world-class level super, like he's like a Thor level guy. So he's tough. Next to him is the Visionary. He's got all the sight-based powers. He's got heat vision, laser vision, X-ray vision, ultra vision, and he's going to be super important because he's the only being on Earth who could naturally detect the counter spectrum. But he doesn't have the vocabulary to describe it as of yet. Next to him, that's the Fog of War. He's a being. He's like a cloud, a fog, who wears this cape to contain himself. But like, if you shoot him, the bullets just get lost in him, and then, he could just reach. So then he could just like point to you, and like at the same velocity, that bullet basically changes its direct and comes back. So he'll like you shoot an energy ray at him, boom, and then he could redirect it, and energy could come back. He could expand the Fog of War so that people are lost and confused.
But he's also intangible.
Yeah, he's pretty intangible.
Okay.
Yeah. But he's vulnerable to counter spectrum energy. Next to him is Powerhouse, who's just a cool So he's just like a Superman guy with like power blasts from his fists. I love Powerhouse. He's just like a good, solid, good guy. I love good guys. You know, this guy over here, he's the Spartan. So he's he's got Green Lantern abilities. He could create energy constructs. But the thing is, the ability to, if you're a superhero, your brain has been radiated by this counter spectrum. So I already said that this counter spectrum could cause like telepathy and stuff like that. So your brain is altered. So every superhero by definition is going crazy. You know, the thing about the Patriarch and why he's such a good guy is he's so grounded. He has a family. You know, he tries to keep himself grounded. He goes and farms. Like when he gets home, he has a rule that he doesn't use powers. So like when he's farming with his kids, when he's doing chores, he acts like a normal dad. You know what I mean? He's actively trying to ground himself. That's why he's such a good guy for so long. But other superheroes start succumbing and they start believing, like Shield Maiden, you can't convince her that she's not really from Asgard. She was a regular girl born on Earth who got superpowers, and now she thinks she's a Valkyrie. You know, doesn't mean.
So her brain, the alteration of her brain has diluted her identity.
Correct. Like, so a lot of these guys are losing touch with reality, you know, and a lot of villains started out as heroes, but they can't, you know, they can't deal with their brain. Like they create, it's called they become metapsychotic. They start to believe, like there's a villain that I have called the Subhuman, who is Namor. You know, he could live underwater, breathe, everything like that. But he just knew he was a regular guy who could breathe underwater and had super strength. But after, like, the more he exerts himself, so when you see these superheroes' eyes turning golden in my comics, that's them losing a little bit of their sanity. You know, they're pulling more power, and because of this, their brain is altered. So the Subhuman got beaten so bad, he, you know, got this. He really believes he's the last king of Atlantis. And the thing about superpowers in my world, you have the ability to fly because you think you have the ability to fly. You're pulling an energy from you know, cosmic energy it's changing reality. So when the Subhuman had this nova burst of power, he actually created ruins of Atlantis in the ocean someplace. You know, now you cannot convince him that he's not the ruler of this. The sad thing is, a couple of ships got sunk by the tidal waves and they got transformed into Atlanteans, and they're just like, save us. You know what I mean? It's like, you're my subjects. It's pretty bad. So anyway, back to the Spartan. He believes that he's an ancient Greek. He believes that he's the last, you know, immortal being from Sparta. So he could use this bronze energy, but he's limited to constructs that the ancient Greeks would have. So he can make spears, shields, simple machines. He can't make machine guns and tanks and stuff like that. So I think he's a cool limited.
So if you asked him to make the Parthenon, he could just make that, though.
Yeah, but it would be made out of bronze, like
out of bronze. Okay.
He has this bronze energy. So he has bronze, so he can make bronze.
I mean, the Spartan is a great name. I was thinking there in the Arrowverse there is that guy named Spartan, but I don't know. I don't think they used him too much in the comics.
It's like, you know, like I'm not going to take it in Batman. It's just too. But the Spartan, you know, I'll and he's different than the Wildcats version. You know, I'm sure somebody has a character named Powerhouse. Somebody, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I know Dave Brink has a character named Visionary, and I already said I have a character named Visionary who's, you know, he's going to be showing up in issue number. He's like, so I showed him. He's like, he's different enough. We're not going to get confused. Next to the Spartan, we have Luna, and Luna, she has archery powers and gravity powers. So she's like based on Artemis, who's goddess of the moon. Then Starlet, this is Renzo's favorite. Just imagine, you know, she's a Hollywood actress, got superpowers, and she can survive in space. So she's like a cosmic superhero. So she's got like the powers of a star. And then my favorite over here, this is Captain Atlas. Captain Atlas is the greatest superhero who ever existed. He's my in-world Superman. he got his powers during the Korean War, and he's older. He's older than dirt, and he got his powers when he was close to 40. And that's another thing. The younger you are when you get your powers, the better you could deal with it. So you're going to see he has some issues. I don't want to spoil because that's a big part of issue 5, Captain Atlas. But Captain Atlas he's literally a captain. He's a captain in the Air Force. He fought in the Korean War. As he was like in a dogfight, his ship was hit by a meteor. He gets the powers and everything like that. He's Captain Atlas. He's so freaking cool. But oh my God, I can't wait to tell his story. But he could crush any of these other superheroes. That's how powerful he is. But like Marvel, he has a weakness just as devastating. I guess
made from that same meteor.
I'm sorry?
Is the weakness made from the same meteor that hit him?
It's I will tell you this. I shy away from DC weaknesses and I lean towards Marvel weaknesses. So,
okay.
So his weakness is going to be if you read this, if you know me, the story is going to make sense. We all draw from our real life, and I'll talk more about Captain Atlas when his story debuts. Yeah, I told my nieces the stories, and they're just like, "Your fans are going to hate you." I got 2 of the saddest comic book stories coming up. They're like, she's like, "Do you just want to actively like make you friends?" I said, I said, I can't make them laugh. Writing comedy is too tough for me. I can't write a detective, but I think I could make you pathos and sadness. So Dale A asks, I guess the Raven is off the radar, or he's not listed because he has no powers. Bingo, he has no powers. So there's no actual pictures of Raven with his eyes glowing. Raven is like a Batman type. He's a street level vigilante with literally no powers. So he would be no interest to Philip Manning. Philip Manning is the this isn't Philip Manning. This is one of his junior scientists. But Philip Manning is my Lex Luthor. He's the industrialist who built Science City, and he hires Mary Sue. As far as Mary Sue's concerned, she's just doing advanced physics, but unbeknownst to her. But you can see this woman right next to her. This is Karen Maven. She understands exactly what's going on. They're making superpowers because Philip Manning is not going to be a normal guy in a world where people like the Peacekeeper or Captain Atlas or the Patriarch exists. What good is being a billionaire when other people could fly to the moon, and touch the sun and stuff like that? So it's, inferiority complex. But yes, Raven has no powers. Garfield's Bizarre Adventures. Wow. Hey, John, off topic, but which Mark Millar comic is your favorite? For me personally, I love his run on the Ultimates. Good question. I really liked, I was just looking at it yesterday. I forget if it's called Starlight or Starbright. I think it's called Starlight, but it's like a Flash Gordon type guy. It's really sad. He's in his twilight years, living in a retirement. But in his past, he was an astronaut who went to another planet and like was basically Flash Gordon, Buck Rogers, and then made it back to Earth, and nobody believes him, and then they call him again, whatever planet it was, Mongo. I got to reread it. It's so good. And he gets to go back and be this great hero one last time. Mark Millar can really tug your heartstrings. I love that. I love that story. It's part of the Millerverse. Granted,
yeah, it's called Starlight: The Return of Duke McQueen.
There you go. It's so good.
And it was on Image 10 years ago.
Okay. Did you read it or you're just Wikipediaing it?
No, I just wikied that. But did you say that it's currently part of the Millerverse? In other words, he's going to bring back that character somehow?
I think it's part of his, because all of his other stuff from Image is also part of the Millerverse. When you're at Image Comics, he still owns it.
Yeah, it's creator owned. Yeah. Uh-huh.
My favorite is Superman Red. So I didn't read it. I would never say this to Mark Millar, but I don't want Superman being a Soviet. You know what I mean? So I just didn't read it. Like The Dark Knight Returns scarred me because I don't want Batman being the stooge of the government. Superman being the stooge of the. I like Superman. I don't like when Superman's the bad guy. I'm okay with Ultraman from the Crime Syndicate because that's not Superman, and I'm okay with the Boys because that's a whole nother
Homelander. Yeah.
Homelander. You know what I mean? But I don't like it when Superman is a bad guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, do you want to read a story about your dad cheating on your wife? You know what I mean? Like, I don't
Well,
want to.
there's also Omni-Man is also Superman is a bad guy
Yeah,
too.
but it's not Superman, so that's cool. You know what I
No,
mean?
no, no, but he does have the whole like evil Kryptonian thing going. Yeah,
Right. Viltrumites, yeah, with
yeah,
the mustache. You know.
yeah. They all have the mustache. It would be even
Did they
funnier
do the
if the
whisker
women had the
pulling ritual?
mustache, but they don't. Like that would have been really funny.
What's that?
It would have been even funnier if the women also had the mustache, the female ones.
Yeah, all the women have huge boobs.
They do, yeah. No mustaches though. Yeah.
With did they do the the whisker pulling ritual yet in the comic? I only watched season 1 of Invincible.
They did no whisker pulling at all. Not in the 2 seasons I saw. Yeah, no.
In the comic book, that's what Viltrumites do when they first meet each other. They have the whisker, and it's funny
Yeah,
because
no, they didn't do that. But
they had this one guy he's like a Gandalf guy with all the beard and everything like that, and Mark Grayson doesn't have the mustache,
yeah,
so he
he's
looks
half human.
He goes, no whisker pulling. He goes, no. He goes, thank God. It just made me laugh, you know, to show how powerful you are. You got, pulling the whisker.
Pulling, yeah, exactly.
Superman Red Sun. He really wasn't a bad. I didn't read it. I just thought, like, what if you grew up in Soviet? It's like, what if you grew up in Nazi Germany? I don't want to read Superman.
Well, then you'd have Uber. That's the.
Yeah, but that's okay because it's not Superman. And
no, it's not. No.
Dark Alchemy. I was just talking about you. See, this is Roy who introduced me to the Tartarian conspiracy theory, and now I went down a rabbit hole because of Roy over here. Roy, this character, if you're still watching, is inspired by you talking about Tartaria. This is Caesar. He's the last king of the Tartarians who, because of the mud floods, he got pushed into the Arctic Sea, and now he's like an aquatic Namor type character coming back for revenge. So there you go, Roy. That's all yours. Personally, I'm not a fan of the boys. It's just Garth Ennis. Yeah, I fundamentally don't like the boys. I love Garth Ennis. I love Preacher. As violent as Preacher was, it was an arc of a guy who started out he started out as an innocent kid in flashbacks. You see his whole life. He becomes like a jerk, and then he realizes through circumstances, and he kind of like almost redeems himself. But it's very pro-patriotic. It's pro-religious. It's very conservative, like if you read the whole thing. And then they made the TV show that was just Seth Rogen making fun of Christianity and anti-patriotic
woke stuff. Yeah.
I was just like, I just, but and the boys, I bought all the boys because I'm such a fan of the Hitman is one of my favorite comics of all time. I just love Hitman. It's so good. And because of Hitman, I'll always buy anything by Garth Ennis. And I bought the boys, and I read like the first 12 issues, and then I was kind of broke at the time, so I missed issues. And then same with like 100 Bullets. I started missing issues, so I have a big stack of 100 Bullets, and I got to read it in order. I have every issue. I just got to read. So one day I said, this is it. I'm going to read all the boys. And I hated it, but I just had to read it because I bought them all. And I was like, I don't like this. And I'm going to give you a minor spoiler. There are no good guys in the boys. If they stick to the comic book, everybody sucks. And it to me, that's just spiritually draining. I need a good guy to root for. Superman is not bad in Red Sun. He's just a Soviet weapon. He actually saves people. Okay. So Roy said joins late. And yes, so you got to see Caesar. Yes, the mud flood. Hitman was great. Have the whole. I highly recommend Hitman. Issue 34 of Hitman, when Hitman meets Superman, is perhaps my favorite comic of all times. Garth Ennis's military. Yes, I got all of his military comics, and I'm not joking. I think I'm 20 years behind. I got a big stack of his. I got 18 boxes of comics that I haven't read yet, and I got to break them out. My problem is I buy too many comics. Even.
What about Garth Ennis's Punisher and Hellblazer?
They're so good.
Yeah,
so good. Oh my God,
his Constantine.
his Hellblazer is a gem among gems because there's so many good runs in Hellblazer. Oh man, I love that character of Kit. Is that, I can't think of her last name, the Irish girl that basically was the love of Constantine's life. She was such a good character, so good that nobody else wrote her after Ennis left. You know, that is such a good. I recommend that, the all 300 issues of Hellblazer, because then they brought him back as Constantine, and now he's bisexual and blah 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 blah. You know, because in the comic, he was flirting with these Nazi guys because he's a con man. You know, whatever gets under their skin is he's going to do, and they use that as basis of saying that he's bisexual. You know, but whatever gets the comic book sales to go down is what Marvel and DC will do. Yeah, Bourne was great. Bourne changed my opinion on the Punisher, and you know, as much as I can't believe I'm on like a chit chat basis with Mike Barron. Chuck Dixon's been on my channel a few times. He called me his buddy, and I hate to say it, but Garth Ennis to me is the definitive Punisher writer. He's so good, so good. I got to get his Fury story. I got issue number 1 of his new Nick Fury story, and I just haven't found it in stores. I love Sean Murphy's Hellblazer mini. Which one was that? Is it new? Is it after Vertigo? Or was it part of Vertigo? I don't remember. How do I feel about multiverses? I used to enjoy them, but recently I've grown bored of them. They're essentially used as universe resets. Or absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. I hate, if you tell me that there's a multiverse, it's a red flag. It's a red flag to the point. I always get nervous when I say this because it's going to get clipped, and Student of God is going to use it for drama. But I stopped getting Splotto comics. I'm only getting, you know, the Chuck Dixon, like Rock and Roll Ninja, and then Matt Bowers doing a story called Westerns, a sci-fi Ruby Ridge story. I'll get that, but I'm not getting Jawbreakers anymore because just you boy Zach is like, oh, he killed off the Jawbreakers in the first issue, which was just a perfect example of not thinking, you know. And then he spent like 10 years. Oh, I'm going to bring him back, but it's not going to be a typical multiverse story and blah, blah, blah. And then it's just a typical multiverse story. It just pissed me off. But anyway, I don't like multiverse stories. Having said that,
what about if it's a parody multiverse?
At this point, it's just like, I'm going to make fun of rap, ironically. Well, you're making bad rap. You know what I mean? It's, you know, I hate when people do things. I don't like parody for the most part. Parody is like the lowest form of comedy. But like,
so you're not a big Mad Magazine fan? Because a lot of that is
Mad Magazine was the only, they're the parody kings. Everything else is just, you know,
it's hard to do, is what you're saying. It's kind of hard to do correctly.
Correct.
So parody multiverses don't work too well.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm trying to think of
when all the X-Men are babies or something like that.
Yeah, I don't like the House of M, and I didn't like Age of Apocalypse. It's like, make it a good story in the world. Like I don't like that DC resets. You know, I always think of DC as like a gem, and every once in a while, like the gem rotates, and we just focus on a different facet. You know, we had the mainstream DC universe, you know, in the golden age. Then we rotated to the silver age. Then we rotated to the bronze age. And then we rotated to the new 52. And it's just like, but I cared about this setting 3 settings ago. I don't care about this setting because you're just going to change it again. So I'm tired of multiverse. Having said that, in Heroic Tales, coming up, issue 3, I'm going to kind of explain the multiverse in the way it works. But in my world, even though there's other dimensions, there's only each dimension. It's inspired by Dungeons & Dragons. So over here we have chaos, and over here we have law, and in the middle we have balance. That's where we are. So if you move dimensions, you are a little bit closer or farther away from order and chaos. So the laws of physics are slightly different in that universe. So there can never be another Heroinberg. There can never be another Garfield's Bizarre Adventures. There can never be another Patriarch, because there's infinite happenstances that led to this, to the patriarch. Over here, they couldn't happen because the laws of physics are slightly different. Like you could go 2 universes away and not even realize you're on the Earth because the continents broke up in a different way. The closer you are to chaos, the more magic exists. The closer you are to logic, to order, the less magic. To the point, if you get too close, cells don't even break down. Everything is perfectly ordered. Like you can't get oxygen from breaking down and breathing, so life can't exist. If you go too close to chaos, molecules just spontaneously mutate, and you know what I mean, and life can't exist. So there's like a Goldilocks dimensions where life can exist, but in this universe you could have like orc-like beings.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Not all universes are equally valid as far as forming stable creations. You have a Goldilocks area in the middle. I see.
Right. Yeah, so in my world, I do have a character that travels the multiverse, but he's a magician, and he actually has to prepare himself, and with incantations and spells, stuff like that, to resist falling apart. And he'll go to this world, and they'll be like Tolkien-esque elves are the dominant life force. He'll go to this world, and there's no magic, and like there's so much order that like chemical reactions don't happen, so like people live like barbarians.
There was kind of, you remember that book from the mid 2010s on Image that kind of did that jump from universe to universe where the laws were different in each one? It was called Black Science.
Yeah, but the problem with Black Science is there was a like, I got that, but there was the same characters, just different versions of the same characters in every universe.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like one of the kids died and they hopped over to the other universe, and in that universe all the parents died, so they just took the kid and that kind of stuff can't happen.
Okay.
If me and you get in a machine and travel to the next universe over, we'll be lucky. Like there's not America, there's not, you know what I mean, because the circumstances led to America. So how could you be born if your country doesn't even exist? You know what I mean? Like the next universe over, the Vikings colonized North America.
Well, the problem with that is how could anyone travel from universe to universe if the physical laws of nature don't permit them to keep existing?
Well, we're talking through the Goldilocks places where life exists. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. So, but among the Goldilocks, they can travel. So you could have a being. Could you have a being that transcends that? Like, you remember Time Traveler from Micronauts?
Yeah.
Like a guy who was kind of like a golden god who could travel between the universes without suffering decay and breakdown because the laws didn't work.
Issue number 3 is all about that character who travels my multiverses, and and it's an alien abduction story, and this poor guy how he gets abducted and travels with this guy for a little while back in time, and they're going to explain like the nature of paradoxes, and you can't go back in time and kill your grandparents. You just can't do it. There's only one timeline. So if it didn't that always, like, I remember arguing with one of my friends back in college, back we're doing, he's like, every decision creates another universe. I said, so my decision right now to take a shit just created a universe. I got to go to the bathroom, but I'm not going to go to the bathroom. So I just created a universe. And he's like, no. I said, well, I just made a decision. I said, where is the energy comes from to create a whole? I said, it's such an arrogant concept that we create universes with our decisions. I said, there's one freaking timeline, there's one freaking timeline. And like if I was to travel back into the dinosaur time, live and die, I'm not really interacting. But if I travel 20 minutes in the past, unless I see myself coming through that doorway, it didn't happen. So like I'm explaining, like if a timeline is a line, and if I travel back in time, I'm making a loop, and then where I connect with the main timeline, there's a little bubble there, and that bubble will separate, and the rest of so anybody on the outside of that timeline just sees me step into the time machine and disappear. For all intents and purposes, I just died. To me, I'm trapped in this repeating paradox. And
it's a loop, and it doesn't create a separate bubble universe that breaks off.
No, it just for me it does. It creates this small little closed fragile soap bubble that I'm like 50% of the time I'm traveling at normal, then 50% of the time I'm traveling backwards to reset to that point for all eternity, unless that bubble bursts and then everything within that bubble is destroyed. That's a paradox. It's, you know, there's a little, that's my rules. So you can't go back in time and kill Hitler. You can't go back in time and prevent your parents from meeting, you know, because all you're really doing is removing yourself from the timeline. And it's super, super dangerous. And of course, there's ways to be rescued from a paradox if you have an all-powerful time-traveling Michael Golden type character that could travel the timelines and rescue people.
Yeah,
it's hence a superhero that I will have. But to make a long story short, Garfield, great question. You got me ranting and raving like a lunatic. I don't like the idea of, okay, I just killed off the issue number 2 of Heroic Tales, the Patriarch is dead. But issue number 3, Patriarch from Universe 5 shows up, and we just go along as if nothing happened. It's cheap, it's lazy, and and at this point, it's just trite. So rest assured, if the Patriarch dies, which I have no intentions of killing just as of yet, he's dead, he's gone. You know, unless you see like a, you know, Patriarch is fighting, Dr. Roebuck in the first issue. He's fighting Dr. Roebuck, and Dr. Roebuck falls into the ocean. You know, he ain't dead. It's a comic book. You know, and the Patriarch, he must have died. You know, that's just such a comic book trope. As soon as you hit the water, stop looking for him. You know, Vertigo, City of Demons by Cy Spencer, Grant Murphy. It could OPP Horror. Could you put that in the comments to this? I want to check it out. I'm not sure if I have that. City of Demons, is that the name of the comic, or is that like a story arc within Hellblazer? Dirty Old Fatty, great to see me streaming. Thank you. Great to see you seeing me stream. Universe X is a cool. Yeah, I like the Universe X. I liked all those Alex Ross, you know, visions of the future. You know, they're pretty cool. You know, again, if you have talent and a good idea and a good execution and good art and story, I don't mind an alternate story. Like What Ifs were fun, but you know, to the point, they at one point they just became too common and they kind of lost their specialness. Stephen Hawking Final Theory said that information is not lost. Yeah, he said that. I don't know what it means, but he said that. I'm not smart enough. I can barely do my day job. What about Back to the Future? Back to the Future was a good popcorn movie, but even as a kid watching, I'm just like, how is that picture fading? You know, either you exist or you don't exist. At no point, you know what I mean? Like, the picture shouldn't be fading. Where's that energy coming to erase those photographs? You know what I mean? But it's a good visual representation for the purposes of that story. That story is not supposed to be hard science fiction. It's supposed to be you're trying to feel up your girlfriend's boobies for the first time when you're 16 years old in the movie theater. So you take her to see Back to the Future. That's, you know what I mean? That's what it's supposed to be. But like 12 Monkeys, I thought was a great time travel movie. There's another one about, it's really, really boring, but it is a good time travel movie about these office workers who discover time travel. They have a storage unit and they're going back and forth like a couple of hours at a time. And you need like a roadmap to figure out what's going on. But the movie's dull, and it hurts your brain. So the past continues to exist, but maintaining the data is another question. I think you could retrieve that data. Yes, if you know how, and if you are a particularly specialized set of skills, like the character in issue number 3. Why do doxes only come in pairs? There's a paradoxes, you know. They mate for life. They're very monogamous. Our multiverses, John Longbox, you can have them, but you better like okay, Heronberg. You got issue number 5 of Heronberg coming out in Sabrina and Savannah, my 2 favorite characters, get destroyed by Captain Good Guy, and then issue 6 comes back and a portal opens and these 2 new characters, look, we're exactly the same. We come from our universe. I would throw your comic book down in rage and never buy another issue. So please tell me.
No, I'm not. I'm never using multiverses. That's not a thing I use. But I'm not saying they couldn't. I guess well, first of all, the Cy Spurrier, Sean Murphy Hellblazer, that's volume 24. So there's been a lot of volumes of Hellblazer apparently.
Okay, so it's a story within the so it's, I got to look it up. So if it's
it's a run, but it's like volume 24. Anyway, my argument about you saying there's only one universe and you can't break the timeline, whatever, that's cool, except for the fact that all of our imaginations conceive of so many different universes. Whether it's Tolkien conceiving of Middle Earth, or Dune of Frank Herbert conceiving of Arrakis, etc. So, wouldn't multiverses really, rather than being kind of a physical, a manifestation of physics, wouldn't they be a manifestation of imagination instead? And how, if that is the case, if that's the definition of a universe, right? Then how would one access that?
Good question.
So that's a possible definition of a multiverse. Is each one is a different imagination, right?
I already hinted at that. Remember, I said the patriarch flies because he believes he could fly. But that energy still has to come from somewhere, and when he pulls too much energy, his eyes glow.
Yeah.
Well, this energy is an extra-dimensional source of energy that's beyond the multiverse.
Okay.
And every superhero has like a connection to it.
So it's like the Speed Force or something.
Yeah. And I'm just going to call it the imagination.
Imagination force. Yeah.
It's the imagination. And, they say man is created in God's image. Man is created in God's imagination. It's just this spiritual God demiurgic power that humans are not supposed to harness. You're going to find out, if I make it long enough, that there's something happened on the earth and humans are given these supernatural superpowers, but they're not ready for them yet. There's actually alien races that monitor the universe, and like, oh my God, these barbarians have access. It's like just imagine the Sentinelese on that island in India all of a sudden have access to nuclear weapons. The rest of the world will be like, okay, we got to do something about this. So, this is ancient alien races that are like, what? This small insignificant planet has access to the imagination. They could destroy the universe, because they're not ready. And then there's other ones.
So that is yet another example of Earth exceptionalism, as it were.
Yes. Well, Earth is not supposed to be exceptional. Is the problem? We're not there yet. We're not evolved yet. But we got superpowers too soon. That's why we have supervillains and things like that.
We tapped the imagination force way too early in our race's development. Yeah.
There's other planets where these beings are just naked, floating around in sublime contemplation, and nobody bothers with them because they can handle it.
Yeah.
But I forgot the whole point of this. Oh, so part of that imagination is the first thing. Like, at some point in human history, can we agree that whether you believe in God or at some point human beings didn't have abstract thought? Our first dipping the toes into this imagination was this ability for abstract thought.
Yeah, like the caves of Lascaux or something like that.
And then we created art, then philosophy and poetry. And the end product is every human being has these ability to manipulate reality, but we can handle it. We're evolved to that point. It's like we can't handle communism now because we're still thinking in terms of self and selfishness. What I mean? It's just the human state of nature.
But so we're approaching what would be called by Arthur C. Clarke, childhood's end.
Okay, yeah, there we go. But if I said every superhero is connected to this, so if you're like a Professor Xavier and you could go into somebody's mind, you'll be able to go through this connection and go to Narnia, go to Middle Earth, because they exist in the imagination, so therefore they exist. So in Heroic Tales, at some place in this imaginary but yet real place, Superman really exists. All your characters in Heroenberg really exist. Now, of course, I'm not going to do that because I don't want to get sued. But you know what I mean? Like, some astral traveler literally will be like, I got so many stories. There's going to be a story, if I can make it to like 20, 25 issues, of a scientist who discovers this and basically retreats from life because he wants to go live in Valinor in the land of the trees. Because if somebody thought it exists there. And maybe there'll be a tourist trade. You could go live on Barsoom for a couple of months.
You could. So it's like the stories of, from the 90s and stuff, when they had just thought about virtual reality. You put on the helmet and then you get lost in it and you never want to return to your actual reality. But
Right.
these
Now,
are,
just imagine if you could do it like an astral travel to Barsoom or to the Shire. I don't know about you, but I would never want to leave the Shire. If you would almost literally transported there, I wouldn't want to go to Gotham City. No way, because I'd just walk down the street and the Joker would drop an anvil on me. The what if stories back then at least posed a question. Yes. And they had like I was talking with Marcus Kellegrew about the what if story. A lot of them ended so sadly, and it was like, oh, good. We don't want this to be the main universe. What if Aunt May got bitten by the spider and then all of a sudden, she didn't have the reaction time and she got killed by Dr. Octopus. Yay. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, that was a fun little exercise to visit. I'm glad it's this way though.
and then Peter just cries or whatever.
Yeah. How do I sleep haunted by all these? I love sleeping. I love sleep. I get to visit the imagination. I took a half-hour nap about 2 or 3 hours ago because I stayed up way too late last night. And I just had this great dream. I was just swimming, like this whole world was covered in water. And then all of a sudden I realized this is scary. And then I looked down and there was something lurking underneath the water and it was coming up and coming up. And I was like, okay, I woke up. And then my wife's like, you want to get pizza? I was like, yeah. But I was there in that 20-minute nap. It was, even scary dreams are fun. Actual time travel could be horrifying. Yeah. My wife and I, we talk about this. Where would you go if you could time travel? Where would you go if you could time travel, Harold Berg? I'm just going to call you Berg. It's just easier to call you Berg.
Yeah. Oh, where would I time travel to?
Yeah.
That's a really good question because I'd want to go to a place where there's where I'd be powerful and rich and have access to some beautiful women. So I don't know, maybe some sort of I would travel to the age of Scheherazade and become a sultan. I don't know.
Yeah, I say stuff like that. I always, my wife gets annoyed because I answer like in a logical man answer. She's like, I'd like to travel back in time, meet my mother when she was young, and me and my grandmother, and I'm like, unrealistically, I'd like to go to the Roman Empire, maybe Egypt.
Okay.
I said, but I couldn't understand the language. I would probably get sick or get everybody else sick. You know what I mean? And because of I physically wouldn't look like them, so I would stand out and I'd probably get murdered. I said, but realistically, in those, you see those black and white newsreels of like the end of the war, all the soldiers getting off the ship, and there's hundreds of guys just marching out into New York, yeah, and everybody's waving, and
everybody finds a girl to kiss. Yeah.
Yeah. I would just put on one of those uniforms and just materialize in that crowd, just walking out. I could speak the language. I look like everybody else. I know I could bet on sporting events, who's going to be the president. I could invest in the stock. You know what I mean? And let's face it, like in the 50s, the women had those beautiful, fashion sense, stuff like that. Just get a job. Like, I'm a stock market investor. Buy all the comic books. You know what I mean? That's what I would time travel to, just like, when I'm just walking and go into a bar. Hey, buddy, where'd you surf? I don't like to talk about it. Oh, that's cool. I understand. I lost too much, So Hellblazer, City of Demons, 5-issue run. Do you know what actual numbers they were in the comic themselves? Because I don't have the graphic novels. I have literally the floppies, 1 to 300. My imagination sometimes runs without my consent. Yeah, I do. This is going to sound weird, but I have to wake up for 4:30 at work, and I'm a known coffee addict. So sometimes those two are the odds, and I'll lay in bed, and I'm like, I can't sleep. So one of the things I do to get some people count cheap is I just lay in bed, and I concentrate on my breathing and my heartbeat, and I start at the top of my head, and I just like relax. And usually,
John, it's a 5-issue miniseries from 2010 to 2011.
Okay, so I missed it then. So I got to pick it up. I got to pick it up. Thank you.
Fairly late in the game as far as those stories.
So I force myself to, and then one of the things I do is I think, okay, I'm a superhero and I'm flying, but I'm flying to Jupiter. I'm flying to Neptune, and I just imagine myself in space, and I could see the heavenly object that of Pluto or Neptune or Uranus, just getting slightly bigger and I'm out. And that puts me to sleep. I don't know if that answers your question or not, but that's what I do. Sometimes I wake up from my dream and I'm like, I'm driving down this. Oh, Southern State. That's right. I keep forgetting you live nearby me. That's really bad. Jack Kirby stopped driving because he would drive and get so lost in his imagination that he would get lost. So like Roz, his wife, would drive him around. And I got to say, I was working on the George Washington Bridge, and I was living out here in Suffolk, and I was driving. It was like over an hour drive, and it was during COVID. There was nobody on the road, so I'm going like freaking 100. Even cops didn't want to pull you over. There was times where I was just at work, like with no recollection of being on the road, because I was. There's an actual word for it, like road hypnosis or something like that. But it happens to everybody. But it happens really bad to me. Personally, I'm not religious, but I enjoy stories or movies dealing with faith. Yeah, me too. Me too. I really do. And I have stories involving the creation and angels, stuff like that. And I wonder if I need to tone them down. Like in the first issue, I already have like a guy making the deal with the devil. I don't think anybody's going to be too offended by having demons put in a bad light. But I got stories with angels, and there's a force to create humans that I call a demiurgic force, and there's going to be humans who are gifted with the ability of their imagination is so strong they literally create pocket dimensions and things like that. The lawnmower man is real. Yeah, he wakes me up. Moses Lawn on Saturdays wakes me up too early. My buddies did a podcast where they talk about how dangerous the world of Harry Potter really is. Never wanting to go. It's so dangerous. Yeah. Like, do you really want to live in Gotham City? Even Marvel's New York, there's alien invasions, and there's no consequences. The first appearance of Namor, he unleashes a tidal wave. How many tens of thousands of New Yorkers died when Namor attacked New York City? And then like 5 years later, he's hanging out with the Avengers. You know what I mean? Like Bin Laden doesn't get to join the Avengers. There are so many monsters. I know. I'm legitimately scared of the water. Marcus is laughing at all of us. You guys are literally the meme. Me? What did I do? What am I doing? You got to explain that. Yeah, Marcus and I were talking about all the what ifs ended sadly. They got to explore, unpopular aspects of the Marvel Universe. I read a book with time travel where your consciousness replaced an entity of the time. Yeah. There's a board game called Time Stories, and that's literally what you do. You project your mind into a body. The first scenario is called the Asylum. So you're a crazy person in the asylum. All of a sudden it's like, I'm Marcus Kelligrew, and I have a mission. It's a really, really innovative board game. When you watch old footage from 100 years ago, everyone was thin, wearing suits and hats, carrying a briefcase. Yeah, times have changed. Yeah, I would have to work out. Yeah, to pass off as a guy coming off a boat, I would have to work out. Zach Tan says, "Hi, you all. I hope you don't turn it down. I like theological and mythical stuff. Cool.
Yeah, I like those too.
Yeah, me too. Like, did you get Heroic Tales #1? And if you didn't, I'm not going to get mad.
What, me?
Yeah.
No, I was waiting kind of for a female-led book that you were going to do, like the Jungle Girl thing.
Well, next issue has a whatchamacallit, Mary Sue. You'll like her. I'll show you the cover to Mary Sue.
Well, you said she's working for what's his name, Manning, your Lex Luthor type who's trying to acquire powers.
Yeah.
But does she have powers of her own or a costume or anything like that?
Mary, this is how she gets powers.
Oh, she gets powers kind of accidentally through that project?
Yeah. She gets the powers that were supposed to go to Philip Manning.
Oh, he's going to be pissed.
Actually, he's not. Well,
no. He's
just glad that the experiment was a success.
Oh, okay. So he's being diplomatic in his response. Okay.
Well, not that everything gets messed up, and the second command is just like, I'm sorry that the everything was a waste and everything got destroyed, and he clicks. And he goes, I wouldn't call it a waste, but I can't spoil it because that's literally the last page.
Okay. I'll
But
wait. I'll look for that then.
I'm sorry.
I'll look for that then. When is that gonna be crowdfunded?
I'm 50% done with or 40% done with the book already.
Okay.
But I'm looking at everybody who has a campaign starting in January, and they're not doing that good. Like people that did double what I did when we launched on literally the same day are doing like a third of what I did.
Yeah.
So,
Anybody smaller than like Yaira #2 or whatever.
yeah. So I think I'm gonna wait till February because it looks like everybody's just broke or burnt out on. So, give myself a little time to get more done. See how everybody else is doing. But like I said, like even Mike Barron is not doing that great, and he's a legend. So who am I? So maybe I'll wait till February before I release my next campaign. Oh, you'll like this because I know you like the chicks.
Super Babes. You got another issue, a new issue of Super Babes.
Yeah, this is Bikini Girl.
Wait, what?
Bikini Girl. She's
Okay.
one of the top 10. She's she's one of the characters, the superheroes in Eddie is Doomed. That's the Silver Age Bikini Girl. You'll like the Golden Age better because she's more voom. Okay, this is the Golden Age. I rejected these two, so Oscar Reed did it. But do you know what Bikini Girl's powers would be? Keeping in mind how I'm so strict about the name.
Is she related to the Bikini Atoll and explosions of atomic stuff?
Yeah, she was sunbathing at the Bikini Atoll.
Oh, I guessed it. Whoa, nice.
She was a USO girl, and
she's a showgirl. Yeah,
yeah, and then boom, and now she could release nuclear explosions.
Now she's an actual bombshell. That's her tagline.
Yeah,
actual bombshell.
It's tax season. Yeah, so February. So I'll probably do it February, March, April. So I'll do it for like 3 months. Maybe people get their money back, from taxes. I'm waiting for paydays before backing anything this month. Oh, somebody messaged me that they got a refund from Cyberfrog and then use that money to buy my comic. So that's a little bit of a moral victory. How dare you, John? It's current year. It should have been Bikini Boy. Yeah. So, yeah, good job, Ehrenberg. You guessed it right. I thought that was a clever name, Bikini Girl. Yeah, and that's like one of the things Eddie's talking about in the comic book. So I don't think it's confusing. Why do they got to change everything? Everybody knows that the Golden Age Bikini Girl is more bosomy, has red hair and a white and a yellow bikini, whereas the Silver Age Bikini Girl is more slender, like Twiggy, has blonde hair because that was the fashions of the time.
Like her Twiggy, that is pretty slender.
What's that?
I said Twiggy was pretty shapeless.
Yeah. So but he explains all these differences at the same time, saying it's easy to understand. Like, it's easy to understand because he's been reading it for 30 years. What other philosophical nonsense do you want? Oh, okay. Logic Finest, he always has a good comment. His Dark Material series of books were different and very well done. The Catholic Church wasn't happy about the way the author approached heaven and hell. Yeah, I read all the Dark Materials. He has a multiverse where each universe is different. And I like that. This Lyra doesn't exist in all the different universes. My problem with the Dark Material, and I love the Dark Materials, but I have a problem with it, is for those of you who don't know, that show, that movie, The Golden Compass, was supposed to be the first of 3 movies. It didn't do too well.
Is that the one that had the owl bears or whatever?
Well, it had, every human had an animal that they called their daemon that was with them. So Lyra had this like shape-changing animal. Nicole Kidman had this like golden monkey. I forget what it's called.
Oh, okay.
But the book was really good. There was a couple of like reveals in that book. I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. But they changed too much of it in the movie for my liking. But I really liked it. But my problem was he got annoyed at all the classic fantasy, like Narnia being overtly Christian, and Tolkien's world was he was a Roman Catholic, so there was a lot of Christianity in his. So he was just like, I want to make a book. So he didn't like that. So he's going to make a story to do exactly what he didn't like, preach. And he was preaching atheism. You know, he was preaching religion bad, religion bad. He was, you know, like, I went through my atheist phase where I was a zealot atheist, like, you guys are wrong, and I'm going to tell you why. And then I realized I was just preaching, like, my religion, which was non-religion. You know what I mean? So
That's what Garth Ennis does. He's an atheist.
right. You know, be an atheist, fine, but an evangelical atheist to me is the most detestable thing, because you removed yourself from this zealotlessness, and then you became a zealot. You know, and that's when I realized that religion's not the problem; it's zealotry is the problem. You know, because you could you know look at all the mass atrocities committed by these atheists, you know, communists. You know, they were all zealots for their belief system. You know, it's like the regular going to church guy isn't doing anything wrong. You know, it's not religion that's the problem. It's zealotry and this desire that I know better than you, that is the problem. The book was
Definitely.
The Night Side by Jack L. Chalker.
Jack Chalker has some really good sci-fi novels. I used to read some of his stuff. He had a pretty good universe, actually.
Yeah. So back to his Dark Material. So to me, he did exactly what Narnia and Middle Earth were. You know, he was just preaching his belief system through a book.
Yeah.
You know, he should have just made a fantasy book that didn't preach. Just make a fantasy book. You know. So it's okay when I do it is basically what he said. Dungeons and Dragons had the owl bears. I love owl bears. And
okay, yeah, I thought there was an owl bear in the Golden Compass too, but I guess not.
No, Dungeons and Dragons has the owl. And in my role playing game, there's owl bears and there's all the D&D stuff because it's and they actually go to a planet called Gygax, and Gygax in my world, Gary Gygax was an alien, you know, who, you know, was trying to pepper the world to get the world ready for his civilization. And there's a world called Gygax, and Gygax is filled with all these magical scientists who just like to, hey, what happens if we take an owl and a bear? Oh, owl bears. That's cool. What happens if we, rust monster. That's cool. You know, so that's the planet where all the crazy D&D monsters live.
Shambling Mound.
Shambling Mounds. For me, the HBO series was better. I started watching. I got 2 episodes in, and I just found it so slow and dull. Humans make a mess of everything, including, yep. I love Jack Chalker. I've read many of his books. Unfortunately, make a story out of spite is less to be. Yeah, it's funny that you said that, Zach Tan, because when I originally made the character of the Patriarch has never been in my role playing games. I made him. I was moving to this house, and my buddy Mike, who made up that character, Marshall Strong, I was just like, I want to make a comic book, and I'm gonna make up a character called the Patriarch. And the Patriarch is going to be like everything that's toxic masculinity, you know, and he's going to have the male gaze as one of his superpowers. And I realized I was making a character out of spite, you know, and I was like, that don't last. You know, parody doesn't travel well. Spiteful stories don't travel well. They don't last. Like making a comic book, making fun of woke culture right now should have came out 5 years ago. But, you know, now that it's didn't come out it's past its prime. It's past its expiration date. You know, topical stuff has an expiration date. And I really did fall in love with the Patriarch, and I turned him into what he is now because I think it's a good character and I want it to last. You know, but making a comic book to own the libs, that's great. But how long, you know, it's going to have no cultural impact or anything like that. The new Dungeons & Dragons community is demonizing H.P. Lovecraft and Gary Gygax. The leftists, the D&D community, yep, everybody's problematic. Everybody's racist. You know, if somebody calls me a racist, I just go, yeah, and so what? What are you gonna do? I don't care anymore. You know, we got to remove the power from these words. You know, Herrenberg over here likes chicks with big old cans.
I like many other things. I like history, mythology, languages, and science fiction. No worries.
Yeah. You know what I mean? What do you want? Were Narnia and the Rings preaching or just influence? Oh, Narnia to me is a little bit more preachy than Tolkien. Tolkien was the better writer, and I think everybody could agree with how much of an impact Lord of the Rings has over Chronicles of Narnia. But it's more subtle. You know, the whole Iluvatar and making their it's basically Genesis. It's the whole nature of redemption. All the elves going exiled and then getting redeemed and coming back and going back to paradise. Returning back to heaven. So, but Sauron and Morgoth were obviously the fallen angels.
Yeah, Iluvatar literally means God the Father.
Right.
Yeah.
Iluvatar, yeah.
In Silmarillion, yeah.
Other creatures back then were just as bad. They just didn't write any well-known book. All the cultures back then were just bad. Yeah. And don't get me started on cultures. We all tell each other that all cultures were equal. Then I would say, oh yeah, Nazis were cultures. The Nazi culture equal to your culture? And then they go, no. And I said, okay, so we established that they're not all equal. Okay.
You can start with that and then knock down their false beliefs. Yeah.
Hey, Matt, how you doing?
Hey, Matt.
How you doing, Matt? And again, this is an open invite. It was me talking about modern, my monthly comics. So anybody can pop in if you want to talk. Logic, I'm really telling you, come on, Logic, jump in. The water's fine. So we talked about the nature of the multiverse in my comics. Time travel. What did we leave out? There's alchemy. There's magicians.
The nature of superpowers.
Have you read Rini? I can't pronounce her last name. She did a comic called Fiendish. Have you read that at all?
I have not read Fiendish, but I actually talked with Irene at Heroes Con quite a bit. She was very nice, and we mainly talked about the language that she created, because I'm into the whole idea of creating languages, and so we discussed that. She has a very complex universe that she's put together.
I love Fiendish. Fiendish. It's so good. It's so good. I can't wait for the next issue to come out. But she's been on my channel a few times. I've been on her channels, and I have a magician character that is going to debut. And I forget exactly what issue it's going to be, but he uses, like a typical spell casting. He says magical words and phrases and hand gestures and stuff like that. Very D&D inspired. And I was just going to have Dr. Strange, like whatever nonsense word, but she actually inspired me to write out the system of magic. The only saving grace is it's going to be unpronounceable. So but you have to be,
So Irene's language is called Nunarsa, right? And it's kind of like a mishmash of Indo-European stuff, which I'm into. So yeah, I like that. She's influenced by Lovecraft a little bit as well.
Yeah.
So you have that in common for sure.
Yeah. So she inspired me. Like the language. It's called the language of creation. The magical language that magicians use to cast spells. It's called, and it's like, it's everything. This I made up a whole. It's why do magicians always have the 5-pointed star? Because there's 5 points that you need to master to cast this magic, and I'll explain it in the comic.
5 points. Maybe you could make the 5 points into like 5 vowels in the language or something.
That's a good idea. That's a
like
good idea.
A, E, I, O, U or something like that. That would be an interesting.
That's good.
Yeah.
So but she inspired me to rather just have a guy like saying nonsense. I'm actually like, again, you're gonna see a symbol over and over and over in the comics, like kind of like, oh, I didn't even realize it. It didn't show up in issue number 1, but you're gonna start seeing the symbol that is like the most important letter, because there's 25 letters in the language of creation. The 13th is the exact middle letter, and when you're a magician, all the first 12 glyphs you do with your left hand, and that's chaos. And then the last 12 glyphs you do with your right hand, and that's logic and order. But the 13th glyph can only be done with both hands, and that's the most important. Like, instead of like A is always our most important letter because it's the first, it's literally the 13th because it's the only symbol that can only be done with both hands. And it's the marriage of order and chaos, and it's an important glyph.
Well,
and that's all because
that would be like the letter M or something.
Yeah. So it has. So, and my friend gets mad because originally in our and I wrote it was 26 letters because I was just mirroring the L. I was like, no, it has to be odd. There has to be one. So this symbol in the middle is going to be a recurring symbol that people will see over and over again in my comic. And then I'm hoping that it's going to make sense when I introduce the magician character.
Are these going to
wow.
be?
I want to talk about
this. Like going to be a kind of a complicated looking glyph, or easy?
No, it's
easier
that's
to
the
write.
beauty of it. It's so simple, and you're going to see why you need two hands to do it. It's
oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Simple and elegant I think is the best way to do anything. John, I had to resub to your channel, YouTube. Yeah, guys, please, if you're watching this, please check to see if you subbed, hit the bell for notifications. I never say that stuff because it sounds like begging, you know, and I want people to like, oh, I want to sub. I want to hit the bell. You know, it's like, honey, please tell me that you love me. Please reassure me. Like, I just feel uncomfortable doing that. I'm an Italian, Irish, Catholic New Yorker. We don't ask for attention. You know what I mean? You give it to us or you move on. When is Fiendish 3 coming out? I don't know, but I hope soon. I really like that comic. I got the map. I found it. It was in my comic book room. I got a cloth map. I got to get a frame and hang it up. I got a haul of fake maps. Well, actually, they're real maps to fake places. And Renzo used to be a city. He used to draw blueprints for the city, Mexico City. So I'm going to have him draw a map of Science City. And it's going to be based on the glyph, the 13th glyph. Rini is talented and respectful, a winning combination. Yeah. You know what's funny? My wife just asked me yesterday, have you talked to Rini in a while? My wife is very camera shy. And I don't blame her. She's like, I'm going to come on your channel and then you're going to have these assholes making fun of me and I'm not even part of this. You know what I mean? So she goes, I don't want to have anything to do with it. So she won't come on camera. And you know what I mean? And I don't think she's particularly wrong because people are mean on the internet. But she listens upstairs and she likes Rini. She's like, you got to have her on again. Oh, I already saw that. Left-handed people are so freaky. There's some in my family. My brother is left-handed. I got 3 brothers and 3 sisters, and one of them is left-handed. And here we go. HeronBerg.com. Marcus doing the right thing. Get you in there.
Thanks for the plug there, Marcus.
Yeah. So I know
you guys. He's not the wrench, so
you guys are asking good questions tonight. You got me pontificating. If you had one choice, John, would you rather have a movie or TV show made about your character? TV show, like a high quality TV show that, like, you know, that I had control on. Like every episode would be a self-contained superhero story, but like Doctor Who used to be, you know, like especially the Matt Smith. Every episode was an episode, but there was a connective tissue for like a season finale kind of thing. Like issue 10 is going to be a season finale.
So every episode, like, basically has a return to equilibrium. That's a phrase that. Do you ever watch the YouTube channel by Chato? You know, Call Me Chato.
Yeah.
You know who he is? Yeah, he has this phrase called "return to equilibrium," which he says, you know, all the situation comedies needed to have. You start with a premise and then you have the tension and it goes back to equilibrium at the end.
Like The Simpsons, you know, or Friends. No, because there are going to be changes.
Okay.
You know, there's going to be changes. There's going to be lasting consequences, things like that. So I have like a Bronze Age sentimentality of my comics, but at the same time, I want people to be like, oh, that guy died and he's dead. You know, you can't return to equivalent when that character is gone.
Well, like, yeah, no, I didn't mean that you resurrect people.
But you know what I mean? Like there's going to be consequences. Like when you see the origin, well, in issue 1, you see Marissa Kelly, the patriarch's wife. She's covered in scars. You're going to see why she's covered in scars, and a big change happened. You know what I mean? That changed the way the patriarch does everything. So you know.
Okay, so there are.
I'm trying to dance around it because I don't want to give out my my.
There are multiple story arcs, subplots.
But I don't want to do like 4-issue stories because I don't think it's right to ask people to wait 2 years to finish a story. You know, 3 years to finish a story. So every issue is going to be self-contained.
But
if you buy and read all 6 issues, you'd be like, oh, he kind of hinted, like already I hinted at a few things that are going to happen in the first issue.
Yeah, that's how I'm handling things too, actually, because only one issue a year. You have to give people a satisfying conclusion if
Yeah,
they're going to wait that long.
right. They're not going to come back, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's something, and I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings, but I think a lot of us in this indie scene, they're not giving a satisfying $15 comic book. You know what I mean? Like like a couple of guys, I really like them. Their comic is good, but if it was monthly, oh, awesome. Awesome. But yearly and at $15 an issue, you got to give me more. You got to give me more. One of the comics I read, it was just it would have been like the first 3 pages of a Stan Lee comic. You know what I mean? Like
it was that badly decompressed.
Yeah, it was like introductions are in order, you know. And I was like, and I tried to do the opposite. My original script, I threw so much in issue number 1 because I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna get to do issue number 2. That other people were like, I don't care. This is, you know, I was writing godlike. If you read that comic, it was just the whole history of the universe in 22 pages.
I'd rather read a book that is kitchen sink approach than a book where nothing happens, and especially if people are sitting around at a diner eating food, you know.
Yeah, and again, I'm purposely being squirrely because I'm not trying to hurt anybody's feelings. You know what I mean? But
no, understandable.
But like, if you could come out every 3 months with a comic, that's fine too. I'll wait 3 months, you know. But like Marvel could afford to do a slow build because every month, you know. But if you're making a comic once a year, it's got to be meat. It's got to be a steak dinner. You know what I mean? A glass of wine. You know. What's my favorite genre? Western jump superheroes. Superheroes are my favorite. And after superheroes, it's going to be fantasy. You know, like Tolkien-esque fantasy kind of stuff.
I would go with superheroes and sci-fi as the first 2. Yeah.
And then sci-fi. I'll put all of these in order. So we got superheroes, then fantasy, then I'll say sci-fi. Comedy is all of them. All of them could be comedy. You know, you could have comedy superheroes. You could have comedy fantasy. So comedy to me isn't a genre. It's, you know, it could be anything. And then Western is creeping up, man. I'm really enjoying Western to the point. Issue number 3, I already told it involves time travel. So a couple of the pages are going to be set in the West. Because I want to set up a Western story. You know, my comic is set in Science City, Arizona. Science City is outside of Yuma, Arizona. There's a reason why I picked it, and that reason existed in the Western times too. So there was always something freaky going on in that geographical location that is now Science City. So there was some freaky cowboy stuff that happened out there too. And I know
aliens.
Lots of freaky stuff.
Okay.
Yes, aliens. Yes, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not a Doctor Who fan, but I know people who are really pissed at the Timeless Child retcon. That was it. You know, I watched the Timeless retcon. I was just like, I'm done with Doctor Who. Like, I'm like a light switch. You know, I saw the second, the sequels with Rey. I saw the first one. I was like, this was bad, but it wasn't bad enough to rage. Then that second one, I forget the name of the movie with Han Solo, or where Harrison Ford dies. No, Harrison Ford dies in the first one. Luke Skywalker just dies for no reason in the second one. And like, as I was in the car, I just turned to my wife. I'm done with Star Wars. Like, I don't even want to talk about the movie. Star Wars, it's done. And then that Timeless Child, Doctor Who, I'm done. You know, I saw Star Trek Discovery. I'm like, I'm done with Star Trek. I'm done. You know, the rest, I still love the first 3 Star Wars movies. You know, I still love all the Doctor Who up to the Timeless Child. You know, I still love all my Marvel comics up until identity politics infested it like a disease. But I'm done. You know, when you break up with a girlfriend, I don't know about you, but I'm not calling her every hour. Oh, I miss you. Let's get back together. There's a reason you broke up. There's a reason you move on.
Fair enough.
Yep. Your wife doesn't have to worry, John. We'll mostly be jerks to you. Yeah. I'm doing this voluntarily. You know what I mean? My wife is a sweetheart. She doesn't want to, and it would bother her. You know what I mean? And then you know, when you fight back, it only gets worse. You know what I mean? So, you know, just so she's doing the right thing, just staying off camera. You know, as much as EVS has problems, there's people making fun of his wife. His wife's got a freaking, what was she, a Parkinson's? Something. Leave the woman alone. You know what I mean? She's not the guy. She's ill. Leave her alone. Don't make fun of people's wives. That's just not right. Yo, some person. So, let me ask you about Heroinberg. You're so for those of you who don't know, Heroinberg, or as I'm going to call him, Berg, because that's Berg makes is it fair to say TV shows like?
Yeah, I make TV episodes and also short custom episodes that are fan written, but the TV show episodes are written by me. We're in the middle of the 3rd season, and I'm working right now on episode 25, which is season 3, episode 4. And yeah, I also turn them into comic books once a year.
Right. So comic books are kind of like your side project, but mostly it's live action, people in costumes.
Well, I think it's a side project only to the sense that I don't really have enough time to make more than one per year. But no, it's not really a side project. It's really equal because I wind up taking the comic books to all these cons, right? Whereas the TV show itself is a presence that exists online.
How can people watch your shows?
They're pay downloads, so people buy them and own them forever, just like they own a comic book. So, it's like owning a digital download of a comic book, right? So yeah, people just purchase them straight off of the website, and I send them the download link within an hour or so, and yeah, then they get it, and that's what it's all about. And if you like stuff like Adam West Batman and Wonder Woman, Linda Carter, and Electra Woman and Dyna Girl, mixed with a little bit more modern sensibility sometimes, like CW type of shows, but not, of course, the woke attitude, then you will like what we have to do. But it's essentially boiled down to an all-female superpowered universe in Pittsburgh, in the finest spandex and capes. So there you go.
So is it family friendly? Is it R-rated? Just so
it's PG-13. So there's nothing you won't. I mean, Marvel movies have very light swearing, right? So it's it's PG-13.
But no nudity. It's not creepy, sexy fan creep stuff. You know what I mean? It's family friendly.
The regular episodes are super family friendly. The custom episodes, however, they lean a little bit towards a light R, some of them, because of the way they're written by the so we have different approaches for different audiences. Okay, the custom episodes are written by the fans, the people who buy the episodes. Then they hire the actresses to write their stories. Sometimes what's interesting is sometimes I take a concept from a custom episode and I incorporate it into the main universe. Like, for example, we had custom number 4 where one of our customers created a weakness for a superheroine that didn't have one yet. And then we put the weakness into the main universe and created a substance that would genetically alter any superheroine. And we called it Dranium. So it's kind of like kryptonite, but instead of, Dranium, that's not unobtainium, but anyway. So sometimes the concepts do cross over, but in general, the regular episodes are PG-13 and the custom episodes are I would say light R.
So Garfield's Bizarre Adventure S. Same here, John. I used to love Star Wars, collected the games, figurines, and comics. Now I have zero interest. I passed the anger stage. Now I'm at the apathy. Yeah, I don't hate watch stuff. I'm not going to watch Rings of Power because it's not Tolkien. So, but watching it, they don't care. They just get the ratings. So I'm not watching it. I don't talk about it. I just treat it as it doesn't exist. I don't watch, the new Star Trek stuff, Lower Decks and all that crap. I don't get to do Marvel comics, but I love my old stuff. And I'm looking over here because I got a couple of Star Trek board games that I absolutely love. I got Star Wars Rebellion. Who is it? Ellie? Where Ellie over here? He lives near me. He was talking about the Southern State. Why can't I think of his name? Whatever. come on over and play it. It's like playing the original trilogy of Star Wars as a board game. It's so much fun. I still love. Right behind me, I don't know if you can see it. I got a Star Wars Queen's Gambit. It's it's a 2-player Star Wars game.
Oh, really?
So it's not like I throw it away and pretend it doesn't exist. It's just okay. I like it to this point. Here's the line. And
I got a question for you about Star Wars. This is before, of course, the stuff that you wanted to ignore. What did you think of the Star Wars novels? And what did you think of the expanded universe, which has now, of course, been wiped out?
I don't have any opinion because I never read anything.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
To me, Star Wars was a movie, and movie it shall be. Just like Marvel comics were comics. Anything that's not in the comics isn't real. Like the Marvel MCU, that's fun, but it's the comics are the important stuff.
Fair enough. Yeah, that makes
I never
sense.
read Star Wars. Star Wars was amazing. It was a spectacle. It's like I don't want to read about a circus. I want to go to the circus. The best way to experience the circus is to see the circus, to experience the circus, to be at the circus. Reading a book about Star Wars, I mean, I like to read and everything like that too, but just being at the movie theater with the lightsabers.
Of course, yeah.
So to me, Star Wars was a movie experience.
I just asked because, back when Star Wars was starting, I read the very first Star Wars novel, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, right, by Alan Dean Foster. And that kind of was the thing that kicked off a whole expanded universe that then existed for about 30 years before it was basically erased by, the current Disney regime, right? So,
yeah,
I don't know. There was a lot of stuff going on in between. And
I remember I had Splinter of the Mind's Eye in my hand many times, tempted to buy it, but I just didn't. But I'm thinking about actually reading it now because everybody loves that book. And it's supposed, from what I know, and maybe you know better than me, but Star Wars came out. And I think it was the studio or Lucas, whatever, they wrote Splinter of the Mind's Eye just in case they didn't get to make a sequel. And that was like going to be the sequel.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it could have spawned a whole different bunch of adventures.
Speaking of
eventually became, like I said, eventually it became the expanded universe. So
some person says, speaking of fun comic ladies, The Adventures of Piper is a good comic promoter and writer. I don't know who she is. Yeah, point her in my direction. Send me links or something like that. Just telling me about it in the chat is the same as not telling me. I'll forget about it. Devil Flyer, how you doing? How's everybody? I like the Bane books, the Plagueis books, Splinter of the Mind's Eye, and the Thrawn books. Yeah, I've heard so much about. My friends all tell me about it. It's like they get like, you don't read the Star Wars books. I never read a Star Trek book. I did. I rage quit the Star Wars comics somewhere around issue 13.
There are some excellent Star Trek novels from the older times, 70s and 80s. There are some really good ones.
I'm sure there are. I always like Star Trek a little better because it was always like more philosophical and thoughtful. Whereas, Star Trek to me was science fiction. Star Wars to me was science fantasy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like samurai in space.
I agree, John. The comics, yeah. To me, and I've been talking about this a lot lately, but it's like I had an epiphany that as much as I'm a fan of comic books, like it wasn't until Henry Cavill was talking about how like he was talking about Warhammer, and you could see it in his face. He goes, I love the lore. I love all the niggling little details. I love connecting the dots and memorizing this and knowing the genealogies and stuff. Like when I talk about Tolkien, I know it sounds pretentious, but it is what it is. I love the Silmarillion. That's my favorite of the books. It's like reading the Bible. You get the genealogy of all the tribes of the Edain and the Noldor elves, and then how all the elves broke up and became the splinter groups and all of this stuff.
The Ainur and the Valar, right?
Yeah, I love all those details.
Yeah.
And I thinking about that made me realize that's what I loved about comics, especially Marvel, was, oh my God, Magneto had a wife named Magda, and Magda was the mother of Quicksilver and Pedro. But Quicksilver and Pedro were raised by Django for a little bit. But but before that, they were thought to be the parents of the children of Bob Frank and Madeline Joyce, who were and I love all this through line and connecting all this to, and Fred Duncan was the FBI agent who worked in an office with this guy who also worked with Henry Gyrich. And, I loved all of that. And then when Marvel started hiring people that didn't read comics for 20 years and they didn't know all of these little details, it just cumulatively added up to, it broke my joy, because the immersion of all of this continuity just started to fall apart. And then you could start driving trucks through the holes in the continuity. And I was like, no, this character doesn't do that. That's not even the character's powers. How Wakanda's not in that part of Africa. Oh, God, this guy would never work with that guy. They hate each other. Oh God, this guy's not even Russian. This guy's not Russian, stuff like that. And then I just quit. And then I'm glad I did, because if I stayed with Marvel during this whole identity politics phase, I think I would have just, been out in the streets screaming. Some people aren't really novel readers. They might read the odd book, but aren't hardcore novel readers. All the different flavors make the. Yeah, I love the Dresden Files. I think it's up to like 13 novels right now. I freaking love those books. I recommend that. Robert Meyer Burnett, who's a huge Star Trek fan, said it best. Star Trek doesn't tell you what to think. Yes. Everybody, Star Trek was always political, and they have that Frank Gorshin episode with the on the black. It doesn't tell you which guy was right. It doesn't tell you which one was wrong. It just tells you that there's people that hate each other. You know what I mean? And it like if that was written right now, one of the groups would be the oppressor, one of the groups would be the oppressed, and one would be clearly wrong. I just hate that.
And there would be social credit scores.
Piper wrote AR-13 Little Mermaid. Oh, okay. Her channel is she wrote the Little Mermaid. I thought it was Pixel Trader, or did Pixel Trader just do the...
I'm pretty sure that's Pixel Trader.
Yeah, I didn't know Piper wrote the Little Mermaid. I thought it was a Pixel Trader, or maybe he drew it. I don't know. And I think I backed it already. Oh, oof. So, oh my God, it's 10 o'clock. I gotta go to bed. Yeah. Well, so this is my 15-minute video turned into 2.5 hours.
Sunday night.
Yeah. I already talked about what I'm doing for the week.
Yep.
Anybody want to say anything? I don't. Okay, Pixel is the artist. Okay. I'm not crazy. Well, I am crazy, but I was also correct at that.
Oh, okay.
All right, so I'm going to shut it down. I'm going to go to bed. Tomorrow I got people coming over for board games. Tuesday I got people coming over for board games, and then Wednesday I go back to streaming. So that's that. Yeah,
cool, John. Tomorrow night we didn't do that shoot today, like I said, because that installation disappeared from downtown. But tomorrow night I actually have an audition for a new character, so we'll see how that goes.
Oh, cool! Good for you. Cool.
Yeah,
that's fun. Someday I want to get down to Pittsburgh and be a bad guy who gets beat up by one of the heroes.
Sure. Can you lift a girl over your head? No, I'm just kidding.
Depends on the girl.
Okay. Yeah. No, you'll be great. You'd be great. Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. I'll wear my patriarch shirt.
Good night. Right. Rest on your laurels.
See you. Oh. All right. Good night, everybody. I'll see you. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.